Johnny like a melody, 3x3 legend in the house, and he's solving like na 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 every day, trying to be better than he hang. Johnny like a melody, 3x3 legend in the house, and he's solving like na 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 every day, trying to be better than he hang. Remember the first solve of worlds and it looked like he would win, thinking everything's fine, but the very next time he took the dub again. Who would have ever knew that he would be on top of the game? He's real worldwide, that's how we do, and everybody knows his name. ZB, like nobody else knows. ZB, got the TPS. ZB, got the total control. You know that he's the best. Johnny like a melody, 3x3 legend in the house, and he's solving like na 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 every day, trying to be better than he hang. Johnny like a melody, 3x3 legend in the house, and he's solving like na 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 every day, trying to be better than he hang. Johnny like a melody, 3x3 legend in the house, and he's solving like na 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 every day, trying to be better than he hang.
A 708! Cross my to the place, 535!
No lucky turning here, and see you next week.
I want to keep going. Maybe that's what Dylan's trying to channel.
We bring you live to British Columbia's equestrian capital of the world, and hey, it's also kind of known as Hollywood North. I mean, the film saw the Twilight Saga, Bates Motel, and Riverdale and all that. But we're not here for the horses and for the films. We're here for the 10th rendition of the premier Speedcubing League. Hi again, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on Speedcubing TV. I'm Michael Rosenkrantz. He's the 45-time gold medalist, Chris Yen. Chris, glad to have you back in the booth, and we got a great competition in store for us. I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back in the booth. Took a little bit of a break to compete in one of the PSLs in Davis, but now we're coming back after Seattle, where Dylan Miller, of course, took a very commanding victory over Samir Agrawal in the finals, winning in straight sets 3-0. And we're going to be seeing more of him today. Of course, the biggest storyline is going to be match number 3, presumably between him and Kyle Santucci, the 2 highest seeds that we have in this competition, and 2 of the top 3 competitors that we've seen in the PSL so far. So very excited to see what they're going to do for the 3rd time today. Very entertaining match coming up for them.
No doubt. It's one of the biggest storylines that we've been talking about all week. Kyle Santucci up 2 matches to nothing. I should say 2 wins to nothing over Dylan Miller. And there's the question, can Dylan break over that hump? He's been having really good results lately at his WCA competition. So I think for Dylan, he needs to put his mind at ease and channel his past performances in order to try and get a win over Kyle. Dylan's already clinched his ticket to Vegas, as has Kyle, but you know Dylan is looking for that elusive first win over Santucci. And let's see if we can head it down to the venue right now. We're getting introduced to all of our competitors here this evening. competitors have been introduced here this evening, and we're getting ready for our first matchup between Xuanyu Sun, and going up against him is going to be Jeremy Shang. So, should be an exciting match here this evening. 3 cubers returning, 3 cubers new. Let's take you through the list of the competition. So far, you have Dylan Miller enters as the number 1 seed. Kyle Santucci sits at seed number 2. Lucas Kuchai, seed number 3 here this evening. And then seeds 4 through 6, those are your 3 new competitors. Xuanyu Sung, Jeremy Shang, and Devin Ragu, who made his way here through the intermediate bracket. All right, beg your pardon, ladies and gentlemen. Kyle Santucci is the first seeded. Dylan Miller is seed number 2. Chris, what's some numbers that jumps out to you here?
Well, I think for our first match, we're going to have Xuanyu versus Jeremy, and although their WCA averages might seem a little bit far off, Xuanyu having a sub-7 6.90 average versus Jeremy's 7.42, their recent results suggest that they would be a little bit closer than that. They've both been hovering around the 8 to 7 second mark, with Xuanyu struggling a little bit to stay at that consistent sub-7 barrier, and Jeremy getting a little bit better here and there, getting some 7 and 8 second averages around. And of course, these are new competitors, so going to be interesting to see how they respond to being here for the first time in front of all these people, something that they're probably not used to having happen to them so often.
No doubt. Should be an exciting one here this evening. All competitors here in this one except Dylan Miller are Canadian, so great to see the Canadian representation here in Langley, and we are excited to bring you PSL Langley, the 10th rendition overall in the Premier Speedcubing League. Coin toss happened backstage. Looks like Jeremy is going to be solving first in this match over Xuanyu Sun. Most of these competitors you're going to see are seat FOP solvers. A lot of them know a little bit of ZB in there as well. Jeremy, you're going to see in this one, Xuanyu, you're going to see in this one, CFOP user with full ZB. So good to see some good algorithm knowledge come into play here. But we're just about set and ready to go here in PSL Langley. So glad to have you along here on this Saturday, June 6th, and off we go with the very first solve in PSL Langley. Jeremy solving first. Let's see what he can come up with in the first winners quarters finals. Going to start things off on White Cross. Relatively slow pickup to begin. Smooth turning for him, and might have gotten a skip at the end. 775 to kick off PSL Langley.
Yeah, it looked like a little bit of some pausing in between each of his pairs there, and got hit with a pretty bad ZBLS, I'd say, when you're left with just a split pair, but no edges oriented. Able to execute it well, and that ZBLS was actually executed very, very quickly, made up some time there. So 775 for Xuanyu to start off here. I think that's a pretty good first solve that you can ask for in your PSL debut.
There you see some algorithm knowledge from Jeremy. Jeremy also full ZB. So CFOP and full ZB on display here in this first winners quarterfinals matchup. As always, this is to the first set. The first to take 3 solves is going to be moving on. So these are going to be moving relatively quickly here. Xuanyu needs to beat a 775. He works on yellow. Pretty smooth turning for him as well. Has to pick up the pace a little bit. This isn't going to do it for his first solve. An 875, a full second behind. Jeremy's up 1-0.
Yeah, and it kind of speaks to how common ZB or full ZB is becoming nowadays, because I think that's something that we might have reserved for maybe just the top 50 competitors in the world, but now we're having people who are just teetering around the sub-7 mark that are starting to implement full ZB. Really goes to show just how viable it's become at top level solving, and almost like a barrier to entry when it comes to breaking into the top 100.
Whenever you're ready.
Jeremy back up at the solving station. He's taken the first solve here over Xuanyu Sun. Xuanyu, not to be confused with Xuanyi, only separated by the last letter in their first name, an I and a U.
Not separated by their solving methods either.
Definitely not separated by their solving methods. Absolutely. Very similar solving styles for both Xuan Yu and Xuan Yi. Always so great to see newer competitors get their debut in the PSL. Jeremy, a 2-time gold medalist, also has 2 silver medals and 8 bronze medals to his name. Started things off with a 775. Let's see what he can work with here. Back on white. Pickup was a little smoother. Pretty solid turning here throughout on the last layer. Puts it down with a 777. So eerily similar solves for Jeremy.
And he's gotten some pretty good cases here for the ZB. Maybe not the fastest to execute, but it's kind of just the standard COLL algorithm that people learn when they start learning ZB. And so far for Jeremy, I think some hesitant turning, maybe a little bit of the nerves to start his PSL career, but overall not bad solving. And I think that's always something to look out for, is that your solutions aren't suffering when you're under pressure.
8 seconds.
Jeremy's a solver that kind of struggles under pressure, so let's see if he can get those nerves out of the way rather quickly. Xuan Yu, once again on yellow, has to beat a 777, has to pick up his turning here. This is not going to do it either. Failed to stop the timer quick enough regardless, 899, and Jeremy's taking the first 2.
And there you could see a little bit of the inexperience with struggling to stop the timer. We use 4-pad in the PSL, which is different from WCA competitions. So something you definitely have to get used to, especially if you're so used to solving with regular stack mat conditions. And here for Xuan Yu, you can see that the ZBLS case was a little bit awkward to execute. Ended up with a pretty good ZB that he executed well as well, but not enough to make up for the lost time during the F2L.
Jeremy in a great position right now. He hasn't put down the fastest of times, Chris, but so far that's been enough. He's been able to get good enough cases, and his turning's been smooth enough to where he can still put down respectable times in his standards.
Yeah, and for Jeremy, he's getting basically just under his PR average. His PR average is 7.42, and he's been getting 7.7s. Whereas for Xuan Yu, he's been getting well above 8 seconds, which by his standards probably aren't what he's looking for.
Jeremy on this next solve. Solid pickup, pretty smooth turning once again. This is where he'll start to pick it up here. On to last layer now. Might have backtracked a little bit. 907, so the first 9-second solve for Jeremy.
Yeah, and this time he did not get hit with very good cases. The ZBLS and the ZB took very, very long. Not necessarily because his turning was bad. Like I said, Jeremy's turning so far hasn't been suffering very much under the pressure, but just really long cases that you have to deal with sometimes when you're doing these methods. Maybe, I'm not sure if that's the optimal solution, and it looks like he also was a little hesitant on his ZB execution as well.
8 seconds.
Xuan Yu's got an opportunity here to try and get back in this. 907, the time to beat on your upper right-hand side of the screen. Faster turning this time for Xuan Yu. Gets through it onto last layer. Puts it down with a 763. Xuan Yu's on the board.
Yeah, and his first point in PSL for him, so a bit of a confidence booster there. Also knowing that he's able to beat the 9-second solves, which it could have been a question because his turning has been a little bit sloppy to start here. But good to see that he's able to at least win the solves that he knows himself should win. Again, getting not very good cases here for the ZBLS and the ZBs, which is, again, something you just have to deal with every method that you use.
Jeremy opting to wear those headphones, try and block out as much noise as possible. Big deep breath as he prepares to inspect here. See what Jeremy can do in this next solve here. Off he goes. Once again, working on white. Solid pickup. Turnings picked up a little bit here. Shake of the head, though, through it. Big pause to recognize the last layer case. Puts that one down within 11:37. Here come a little bit of the nerves for Jeremy.
And the closeout solve is always the hardest. I think that solve just was a bit of a disaster from the start. He kind of paused to look at the bottom of the cube, which is an indication of a solve that's just not going your way here. And I'm starting to wonder if his ZBLS is kind of just reducing down to that split pair with no edges oriented. Definitely not something you want to be having every solve. Also didn't know the ZB on that one, so got stuck with a long ZBLS with an OLO and a PLO, which is definitely not what you want when you're using ZB.
Once again, the door open here for Xuan Yu. 11:37, the time to beat. Turning pretty solid so far. Pause to recognize the case in the last layer. Puts it down with an 8:29. We are deadlocked at 2.
A bit of a comeback here for Xuan Yu. He's doing a good job responding to times that Jeremy's kind of just giving away here. These aren't particularly competitive times, especially for Xuan Yu, who is basically a sub-7 solver at this point. So you can't really afford to do that, especially in the beginning when Jeremy was kind of already upset with the times he's getting, and now he's getting times that aren't even competitive.
Jeremy and Xuan Yu, year apart in age. Jeremy, 12 years old, Xuan Yu, 13, and also a year apart in grade level. Xuan Yu, the 8th grader, and Jeremy, the 7th grader here in this one. So very, very close in age and grade. And we are already on potential reverse sweep watch here. If Xuan Yu can pull this out, Jeremy started up 2-0, and what a response here from Xuan Yu, who can only wait.
8 seconds.
See what Jeremy puts down here. 9 seconds of inspection time used up. Relatively slow pickup. A little bit of a pause at the beginning. Smooth turning once again. Recognizing the case on last layer. +2! A 983 for Jeremy.
And for Jeremy, this is just a nightmare of a last 3 solves for him, being up 2-0, and it's going to be a high 9-second solve for him. So 3 kind of uncompetitive times here. Definitely can still pull it out just because he solved the cube. But for Xuan Yu, I mean, this has basically just been a gimme for his last 3 solves. And I think we are definitely going to be looking at a reverse sweep here. For Jeremy, it's just looking like he's not very fluid going into the last pair for ZBLS. It's kind of treating it like a last layer case where he's taking a little bit too long to recognize, which for one of the appeals of ZB is that you can be really fluid going into your last pair and getting a ZB, but not the case here for Jeremy.
8 seconds.
983, the time to beat. Jeremy can only wait and watch. Here goes Xuan Yu. Slow pick at the beginning. Really smooth turning here from Xuan Yu. Looking to put this one away. Big pause, though. Can he recognize last layer case in time? Didn't stop the timer quick enough. 995! And Jeremy survives!
And Xuan Yu, again, this is not the time to be showing that you're not used to how these timers are stopped, and this is coming at the absolute worst time in the deciding solve, and a really big blow for Xuan Yu because he was definitely on pace to beat that solve, even with the really large pause at the end there, and really unfortunate for Xuan Yu because it looked like he had that in the bag, even with this really, really long pause going into the ZB and a really easy ZB, but again, you have to remember that these timer stops are different than what you're used to in WCA competitions.
That pause you could see on that replay, Chris, just that massive pause on that big red block on the left-hand side just costed Xuan Yu there, and tough one to swallow for Xuan Yu here early, but that's not the last you'll see of him. But man, a big sigh of relief for Jeremy as he moves on in the bracket. He's going to be moving on to the winners semifinals where he'll be taking on number 1 seeded Kyle Santucci. And we are getting ready for our next matchup here in the winter quarterfinals. And it will be 3 versus 6. Lucas Kuchai against number 6 seeded Devin Ragu, who got his way here through the intermediate bracket, defeating Justin Chu 3-7-2 in the intermediate bracket. So a very close battle on the intermediate side of things, and here you're getting your first look at Devin Ragu getting to solve first ahead of number 3 seeded Lucas Kuchai. Chris, as mentioned before, you were a number 6 seed as well in Davis, and you were able to complete a really solid run in the lower bracket. So, I mean, as the 6th seed, what do you think your mindset is going into this one for Devin?
Well, for Devin, I think on his side is the experience of already competing in this setting. Obviously, it's a little bit different now that you're in the pro division, but Lucas hasn't competed in this yet, and Devin had a very commanding performance in the intermediate bracket to make it through. He won in straight sets against Justin Chu in the finals of the intermediate bracket, so he definitely has that on his side, and it can give you some momentum going into this as well because he's not too far removed from solving in this environment.
Devin solving first here in this one. Very quick inspection time. 5 seconds used up. He starts on white cross. Little slow pickup, turning a little bit spotty here to start. Big pause to recognize the case on last layer. 8:52 to kick things off for Devin.
So an alright solve for Devin by his standards. He has an 8.09 official PR average compared to Lucas, who has a 6.77 average, which is good enough for the 3 seed here. For Devin, I'm not a fan of this ZB algorithm. I think there are a couple options that are better than that, but at least getting the ZB is better than nothing.
Here goes Lucas Kuchai, getting your look at him for the first time. Works on yellow, very solid through F2L. On to last layer, calmly puts it down with a 723. Lucas takes the first solve.
And you'll notice that Lucas, compared to Devin, has much larger hands, and in my opinion, one of the hallmarks of cubers with larger hands is that their turning is extremely stable. You can see that Lucas is not locking up at all in F2L. Locks up a little bit here at the end with the G-Perm, but that's not really enough to throw away such a good solve by his standards.
Here goes Devin, down 1-0, looking to put down a solid time here, turning a little spotty again. Another big pause to recognize the case on last layer. 9:04 this time for Devin.
And he actually got the exact same ZB case as he did in the first solve, and unfortunately, it didn't look like he was quite ready for it. Caught him a little bit off guard. Like, since ZB cases are getting the same 1-2 times in a row is so rare, your brain is almost kind of like in disbelief. Like, am I really getting the same case twice in a row? And once again, opting to use an algorithm that I'm not the biggest fan of when it comes to that case, but still not the best solve by Devin's standards.
Kuchai, the native of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. For his next solve, puts that one down with a 7:06. He's up 2-0. Very solid from Lucas.
And he's showing off a bit of the color neutrality there because this time he decided to solve on orange cross. Kind of set the cube far away from the timer, so a long way to go for him to pick up, but it doesn't matter because look at that execution on the Ola. Like, that's really, really impressive to do the M-Slice algorithm on that case, and he does it absolutely flawlessly.
And here goes Devin, the native of Vancouver. He's down 2-0 early, looking to put down a good time and try and stay in this winter quarterfinals. Big pause, though, and he tried to get his turning down. On to last layer now. Soft tap of the timer. 12:36.
And for a couple of these solvers that seem to know full ZB, but they're not quite at the sub-7 speed yet, you'll notice that compared to some of the top cubers that we see that use ZB like Xuanyi or Timon, they spend a lot more time on their ZBLS for the last pair, and that may be a result of them not knowing the optimal algorithm for the ZBLS, so they're definitely wasting a lot of time on the table there.
Early match point here for Lucas has to beat at 12:36. He's working on green cross right now. On to last layer, calmly puts it down with an 8:14. A clean sweep for Lucas, and he is on to winners semifinals.
Well, Lucas certainly doesn't seem very nervous for his first time competing in PSL. That was really, really solid solving from him. It looks like his turning is extremely solid as well. So good start to Lucas, to the tournament for Lucas.
No doubt, Lucas has actually competed at Vegas before, so he has competed in the PSL. This would be his Season 2 debut, though, so a new season for Lucas, and he's starting out on the right foot. Well, hey, coming up next, don't go anywhere. We got winners semifinals on tap, and first winners semifinals match that you're going to see is Kyle Santucci against Jeremy Shang. Don't go anywhere. Speedcubing TV's coverage of PSL Langley returns right after this.
At For the Need Foundation, we are committed to transforming young lives through the power of mentorship. Follow us at For the Need on Instagram and Facebook to stay up to date on how you can make change in your community. Together, we can prevent homelessness.
A 708!
No lucky turning here, and see you next week.
I want to keep going. Maybe that's what Dylan's trying to channel.
We're back at PSL Langley in British Columbia, Canada. Michael Rosencrantz, Chris Yen with you. Glad to have you along. Winners quarterfinals is gone and done like that. Jeremy Shang on the verge of potentially being the victim of a reverse sweep escapes after a +2 penalty, and now he gets his shot at the number 1 seeded Kyle Santucci. And this should be an exciting preview of what could be to come later in this competition, Chris. Again, we mentioned it in the open. The biggest storyline, Kyle versus Dylan. Kyle has taken the last 2 over Dylan, undefeated against the native of Louisiana. And Kyle, he's already punched his ticket to Vegas, but you got to think he's looking for that 3rd win to keep this rivalry going.
Yeah, he might even be trying to put the rivalry talks aside, because they always say that in a rivalry, you need to be having both sides win here. But if Kyle can pull off 3 in a row from Dylan, then those talks might be put to rest. And for Kyle going up against Jeremy in this next round, Jeremy was a bit of a beneficiary of some bad luck on his adversary's side, with Xuan Yu not being able to stop the timer. You're not going to be getting the benefit of that from Kyle. He's the second most seasoned competitor that we have in the PSL, and he also boasts the lowest error rate out of any competitor with as many matches as him. He only makes an error of 1.2% of the time, which is extremely impressive under such high pressure, especially when single matters a lot.
It really is. And one thing we didn't mention, Chris, is in the open, Kyle versus Dylan. Kyle's the 1 seed in this matchup. This could affect the seedings down the line for PSL Championship in Vegas in October. So this match has massive implications for that as well. But here goes Kyle getting started on his first solve in PSL Langley. In his home country, just such smooth turning from Kyle on the last layer, puts it down with a 6-14 to start his tournament.
You can see Kyle's turning is just on a different level there. He started the solve pretty well. It looked like a bit of pausing there after his second pair, and also not the best execution of the ZBLS and the ZB, but really, really good turning from Kyle, and that's kind of his trademark as a top solver.
Pressure on Jeremy already. Jeremy's recent results kind of seem a little bit all over the place, but he's kind of been plateauing at around that 7 or 8 second mark in his recent results. And his biggest advice to other cubers, work through those plateaus. It's easy to plateau, but how can you work through it? Jeremy trying to work through it here, but it won't be fast enough. That's an 8-21. Kyle takes the first one. He's up 1-0.
Better solving there from Jeremy. We saw him a little bit hesitant with his turning in the first round. Unfortunately, he didn't know the ZB case there, so he opted to just do the lefty soon into a G-perm, which is never what you want to see, especially when you're adding a little bit of extra time to your last pair with ZBLS. But better solving from Jeremy that we saw from the first round.
Here goes Kyle, working on white this time. Wasn't quite happy with how he started out. Nice recovery at the end, though, with a 5-22.
That was really good recovery there, like you said, and it looked like he was almost anticipating a skip for the OLL. It's really easy to confuse for that case. what your PLL is going to be, but he does the U2 immediately in case he did get the skip. He didn't get the skip, he got a U-perm, but he executed it really well there, and a really good time from Kyle.
Kyle, one of the most decorated in both the WCA and the PSL. Kyle is already a two-time PSL champion, won it in Las Vegas in Season 1, and recently took the title in Davis this past season in April. So Kyle has punched his ticket to Las Vegas. Jeremy looking to stay alive here in this one. He has a tough task at hand, though, trying to best the number 1 seed in Kyle Santucci in these winners semifinals. As a reminder, winners semifinals is best of 3 sets. Here goes Jeremy. Pretty solid pickup. Smooth turning for him here as well. Not going to be quick enough, though. On to last layer. 7-14, though. A lot of good stuff to take away from that, though, for Jeremy.
Yeah, his best solve so far of the tournament. A little bit tall of an order to be the 522, being better than Jeremy's PR single in the WCA. He has a 583 single, so 522 is a little bit of a tough task there, but it looked like he ditched the ZB for this solve. He just opted to go for regular CFOP and got hit with some pretty good cases there. The T OLL into a U-perm, so much better executed solve there for Jeremy.
Kind of a rough pickup here for Kyle to start, trying to get through it with that. Turning onto last layer now, a little locky, but puts it down with a 793.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened there. Just a bit of a sloppy solve overall for Kyle. Turning wasn't fully there, and it looked like the solution was just a little bit too long that from what we're used to seeing from him. Yeah, not great execution of the last layer. We're not really used to seeing that from Kyle, but of course he's up 2-0, so he has a couple solves to give. Although Jeremy did just narrowly escape a reverse sweep last round, so I'm not sure if that's technically the strategy you want to be going for here.
793, the time to beat for Jeremy here. Looking to stay alive in this first set. Pretty smooth turning to start. Big pause in the middle as he works through F2L. This isn't going to do it. Jeremy frustrated in this one. He'll just put this one down. Soft tap of the timer, 12-17. A clean sweep for Santucci in set 1.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate there for Jeremy because it looked like he had the blue-red pair available pretty early, but it was one of the longer pairs, and so he was trying to figure out a different pair to do to maybe make it a little bit better, but ended up wasting a lot more time there. And, you know, when you're thinking about your solves too much like that, you're just kind of throwing away time, and unfortunately not able to get it done there.
Jeremy now going to be solving first here in this second set. Also an avid basketball player too, outside of cubing. Also is on YouTube as well. Channel name is Let's Get Cubing. Lots of these cubers on YouTube. We'll be sure to highlight those for you throughout the competition here. But yeah, I think of this first set here, Chris, just a little bit of nerves popping back up for Jeremy here. And I can't blame him going against the number 1 seed here. But a big sigh of relief here to get through the first winners quarterfinals and get to the winners semifinals. And you know what? That was Jeremy's goal here today. His goal in this competition was to get to Kyle Santucci, and here's his opportunity here. Beginning set number 2 here. Jeremy going to be solving first in this one. Still trying to recognize that case. Big pause to recognize last layer. Another rough one for Jeremy, 1198.
Yeah, once again, Jeremy making a pretty big mistake there early on in the solve that he didn't realize until he was ready to get to last layer. It looked like he had some edge flipped at the very end because he only had 3 oriented as opposed to the 4 that you're expecting when you get to ZB. So once again for Jeremy, kind of giving away solves here with really uncompetitive times.
Santucci just looking to safety this one here, but you never know. Anything can happen. Kyle on white. Smooth turning here to start through F2L on the last layer with the MU moves. Calmly puts it down with a 673. Kyle has taken 4 straight.
And for Jeremy, I know it can be a little bit intimidating. I was on the losing end of 2 matches to Kyle, and I know that it's a little bit difficult to kind of gain confidence when you're going up against the top seed in the competition. But for Jeremy, he just needs to focus on getting good solves here, and even by his standards, he's not doing so. But definitely has the opportunity to do so. We saw him get his best time in this round.
Hopefully Jeremy can shake off some of those nerves. Pause there on F2L. Puts it down with an 822. Little better there from Jeremy.
Yeah, and this time, not exactly a time that Kyle can just walk to. He can't afford to put down the cube like he did in his last solve. Still not looking like he's going to give himself a great chance to beat Kyle in this solve, but better solving that we're seeing from him.
822, the time to beat here for Kyle. Look at that pickup and that turn speed, just so solid from Kyle. Puts that down with a 491, and he's taken 5 straight now.
Yeah, it's the first sub 5 that we've seen from Kyle so far. That was really, really quick turning. It didn't even look like he had the most fluid solve there. But when you're turning that quickly and you're recognizing cases pretty well, it doesn't really matter. See, yeah, big pause on his ZB, but it doesn't matter because it's a really short one that he executes well.
There's your first sub 5 of the competition. And here goes Jeremy looking to try and claw his way back in this one. Recognizing the ZB on the last case, 724. That's better.
Yeah, fortunate with a pretty good ZB there at the end. It looks like Jeremy is utilizing quite a few wide F moves to insert his pairs. As you can see right there, he did it on the left-hand side. I think I saw him do it on the right-hand side earlier. And sometimes that can lead to a bit of pausing because it's hard to look ahead when you're using wide F terms. But in that case, it didn't really matter. He continued to solve really fluidly and got a really good ZB there that he executed well.
Here comes Kyle back up. He's taken 5 straight so far. Santucci, 98-time gold medalist, 6-time national record holder as well. Coming up on the 1-year anniversary of his Canadian national record average in 3x3 almost a year ago. Little locky here for Kyle, trying to make up with his turning speed. He's able to do so with a 689, making 2 clean sweeps for Kyle, and he is moving on.
Yeah, you're right. He definitely turned up the turning at the end there because I think he realized that this solve isn't one that you can just walk to. So once he realized there after that pause, he needed to turn it up a little bit. Able to do so and barely squeaks out that win, but double sweep there for Kyle, and he's moving on.
Kyle will wait for the winner of the next semifinals match between Dylan Miller and Lucas Kuchai. 2 versus 3. Don't go anywhere. PSL Langley returns right here on Speedcubing TV.
Moving to one of the shelters that I lived in, just going outside, you'd realize and notice all the people and how dangerous they were thinking, the thoughts that they were thinking of doing.
I think the worst thing that I've been through was watching my dad get arrested in front of me.
Well, it was really hard seeing my mom be broken. And I just hated seeing her like that.
Join For the Need in breaking the cycle of homelessness for children. Together, we can make a difference. Donate today at fortheneed.org.
Hey, we're your Speedcube shop. We are your one-stop shop for anything cubing or puzzle related and have something for everyone, beginner or pro. If you want the best of the best, allow us to lend you our years of experience and consider one of our premium setup Speedcubes. Our team of experts will dial in your Speedcube by applying lubricants and adjusting the settings so that when your cube arrives, you're ready to start crushing your PBs. Have any questions? Our team is available via phone, live chat, or email to help get you on track. Tap the link to find your next challenge or upgrade and enjoy what we and many others consider to be the best shopping experience around.
So leave my sweater on the board. I'll leave your bag under the stairs. Don't go back to our old place. It's probably locked up anyway. I bet it still looks doesn't matter anyway.
Back at PSL, Langley, Michael Rosencrantz, Chris Yen with you. Glad to have you along, and we're getting you right into the second match of winners semifinals. Dylan Miller versus Lucas Kuchai. You're going to get your first look at the number 2 seeded Dylan Miller. And Chris, I just got to mention, you know, Langley is the equestrian capital in British Columbia. And Dylan seems to have a particular fondness for horses. So, I mean, wouldn't this be such a full circle moment if he were able to get it done here today?
Oh, I mean, that's news to me. I had no idea that Dylan was such a horse enthusiast. But yeah, that would be a pretty full circle moment for him, especially with all of the storylines that are coming with him into this competition. He's also coming off of such a dominant win at PSL Seattle. So definitely the time to do it for Dylan, and the great time for him to beat Kyle for the first time, if that ends up being his in his way.
Most recent competition was in Mississippi. Now back on the PSL stage for Dylan. Quickly through F2L. On the last layer, 550. That's a good start for Dylan.
Yeah, great first solve for Dylan of the tournament. A little bit unlucky with the GC perm at the end. Dylan is pretty much a pure CFOP solver. We're not going to see a lot of ZB from him, but that doesn't really seem to matter because Dylan is one of the best CFOP solvers in the world. You can see there, if he did the OLL from the other angle, he would have gotten a much better PLL, but good execution on the GC perm.
Yellow cross here for Lucas. Trying to make up for it in his turning. Won't be able to do it here. Puts it down with a 739. Dylan is up 1-0. And Chris, we mentioned it, the biggest storyline in this one. Dylan trying to get over that hump against Kyle Santucci, which is expected what we'll see here later today. And it's been a lot lately for Dylan. Having the results he did at Westerns, making it far but not to his expectations. And since then, he's slowly been working his way back from his competition in Mississippi and has been putting down really solid times. Let's hope he can keep that into this competition here today. This one a little bit more locky, though, for Dylan. Puts that one down with a 647.
Yeah, and for Dylan, Dylan's hallmark of his turning is he has really, really fluid and burst turning, high TPS burst turning, which is a little bit different from Kyle. I think Kyle's solves can tend to be a little bit more fluid, but Dylan's solutions are always very fundamentally sound, and so even when his turning isn't the best, he still can pull out good times like that.
Door could potentially be open here for Lucas, but another slow pickup for him, though, as he works on Blue Cross. Trying to make up for it in his turning on the last layer now. Not quick enough, though. 719, and Dylan's up 2-0.
Good solving that we're still seeing from Lucas. Lucas is actually much more of a Megaminx solver by trade, and I think you can see that in his turning. I think when people are solving with big cubes a lot or with Megaminx, their turning on 3x3 tends to be very solid, and you've seen that so far with Lucas. He's also color neutral, which can give him a little bit of an edge on Dylan, but so far it seems not to quite be enough because Dylan is just such a good solver.
He absolutely is, with an early 2-0 lead over Lucas Kuchai. Yellow cross this time for Dylan. A little bit locky as he works on last layer. 6-12 for Miller.
Yeah, and there you could see a little bit of the F moves that I think is pretty unique to Dylan's solving. He uses a good number of F moves during his F2L, and he's not afraid to use OLLs that also might involve some F moves. Unfortunately, there he used the OLL, the alternate OLL algorithm, and then forced an N permutation. But again, Dylan's turning is so fast that it doesn't really matter.
Better pickup this time for Lucas on Blue Cross. Little bit of a pause, though. Try to recognize through F2L on the last layer. 619! Dylan sweeps set one by 0.07 of a second.
It was really close for Lucas there because his pickup was a little bit better, but yeah, right there after his second pair, a huge pause, and that absolutely cost him because the rest of the solve was pretty much flawless for him.
That third solve, a good one to take into this second set here for Lucas. Down in an early hole, 1-0. Lucas, you mentioned it, Chris, an avid Megaminx solver. That's a tongue twister in itself, my goodness. He placed 6th in Megaminx at Worlds 2025. in Seattle, and we'd be negligent if we didn't mention that Lucas also has held the Mega Minx single national record since North American Championships 2020, and he's also ranked in the top 20 in Canada for average in 6 other events. So, I mean, Lucas, a household name in Canadian speedcubing.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that he's getting to show off a bit of his, I'd say, underrated 3x3 skills. He's pretty solidly sub-7, and I think you're seeing that here today as well.
Yes, he is. Slow pickup here again for Lucas. Yellow cross the choice. Pretty smooth turning nonetheless through F2L. MU moves to finish it off. 8:44 for Kuchai.
Yeah, and I don't think Lucas uses ZB either, so he opted to go for the COLL there, which I think is a bit of a lost art. Nobody really uses COLL for the pie cases anymore, unless you know full ZB, so a little bit unfortunate there because now your last layer just ends up being a little bit longer, and not the best time for Lucas to start.
Dylan solving second here in this second set. Working on yellow. A little bit of a lockup, but just turning so quick regardless. 5:42, and Dylan has taken 4 straight.
I mean, so quick, so fluid, maybe until the last layer there, but when you do like 90% of your solve the way that he was doing it, it doesn't really matter if you get a little bit lucky at the end. So really good solving that we're seeing so far from Dylan. I think probably the best that we've seen from him in PSL since Davis at the very start.
9 seconds of inspection time used here for Lucas. Pretty smooth turning so far. Couple of pauses through F2L. Still working on it. On to last layer now. Soft tap of the timer at 9:39. It's just been a rough couple sets for Lucas.
Yeah, this round in particular hasn't been the kindest to Lucas with his cases, with his execution, pretty much everything about his solving. And a little bit interesting that he's kind of having his worst solves when he's going first. I think the trend tends to be that you solve a little bit better when you're first because you don't have that pressure of the time you need to beat. But it seems to be the opposite for Lucas so far.
And as usual, Dylan likes to be solving first, but he's solving second here in this one. Just look at that turning from Dylan on the last layer. 5:01.
And for Dylan, he's just teetering on the edge of sub-5 here, but he's getting 5s after 5s. Really, really good times from Dylan. I think he's just like a couple lockups away in his solve from getting consistently sub-5, which is going to bode well for him in the later rounds of this competition. But really good stuff that we're seeing from him so far to start.
Dylan on the verge of another clean sweep here in the semifinals. Lucas trying to do anything and everything to stay alive here through F2L. On to last layer. That's a DNF. And that is a fitting ending to the winners semifinals for Lucas. And Dylan is going to be moving on to winners finals.
And I think that's actually like the fastest possible that you could have gotten swept. We didn't even finish the full number of solves there because of the DNF that gives Dylan the automatic point and the win there. So for Dylan and Kyle, they're both doing clean sweeps in their first round, except Dylan getting it done in one less solve because of the DNF. So exactly what we expected from the first, second seed in this tournament, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of them later on.
Absolutely, we will. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, we have lower quarterfinals. It's going to be Lucas Kuchai going up against Xuan Yu Sun coming up here in this one. Don't go anywhere. Speedcubing TV's coverage of PSL Langley returns right after this.
At For the Need Foundation, we are committed to transforming young lives through the power of mentorship. Follow us at For the Need on Instagram and Facebook to stay up to date on how you can make change in your community. Together, we can prevent homelessness.
No lucky turning here, and see you next week.
I want to keep going. Maybe that's what Dylan's trying to channel.
We're back in PSL Langley, 4 matches down, and only more to come. Michael Rosenkrantz, Chris Yen alongside you. Well, as we expected, Chris, Dylan Miller, Kyle Santucci meeting once again in the winners finals. But before we can get to that, we go to the lower quarterfinals. Lucas Kuchai not going to have too much time to dwell on his recent performance against Dylan Miller. He's going up against Xuan Yu's son coming up in this one. Their averages really close together. Only a separation by 0.13 seconds. So this could be a very interesting start to the lower bracket.
Yeah, and this is always the most interesting match to me because this is about as short and as long of a time that you can get between rounds. For Xuan Yu, he's had to wait 3 rounds in order to start competing again, and for Lucas, he's coming off of just competing. So I'm always interested to see how these competitors respond and how they prepare in between sets because it's so different between the two of them.
It sure is. Lucas going to be solving first here in lower quarterfinals. Once again, this is a very quick match. First to 3 solves will win the set and move on. The loser of this one is going to be eliminated from PSL Langley. Lucas going to be solving first here. Working on green cross to begin. A little slow pickup. Couple of pauses in his turning. Quickly through F2L though. On to last layer. 684 for Lucas.
Yeah, and it's good stuff coming back from the DNF that got him sent down to the lower bracket for Lucas. And I think he's been solving a lot more solidly than what we've seen from Xuan Yu so far in the first round. But like you said, Xuan Yu, his PR average is pretty close to Lucas's. So if he can kind of dial it back in, then we should be looking at a pretty interesting match here.
Absolutely. Xuan Yu, as Chris mentioned, had to wait 3 matches here. So let's see how that plays into effect here as he has to try and beat a 684 in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Yellow cross here for Xuan Yu. Couple of pauses in there. Trying to pick up with it in his turning. Trying to recognize the case in the last layer. Not fast enough, though. 877. Lucas is up 1-0.
And here it's going to be CFOP versus ZB. And you can see for Xuan Yu so far in this tournament, for him, the ZB hasn't quite been working. He's been getting hit with some pretty bad cases. And it looked like in this solve, he tried a little bit too hard to preserve a free pair in inspection. And of course, he got that pretty nasty lockup at the end of his ZBLS. But yeah, so same story here for both competitors. Lucas being really solid with his CFOP and Xuan Yu getting a little bit screwed by cases on ZB.
Oh man, rough start to this solution for Lucas. This is going to be one he was going to want to put behind him here. Working through F2L onto last layer. A soft tap of the timer with an 1192.
Yeah, and we were just talking about how he came back pretty well from that DNF that got him sent down to the lower bracket, but immediately kind of giving away a solve here, although Xuan Yu has struggled a little bit with his timer stops. So if he's able to clean that up, this should be a pretty surefire win for him. But for Lucas, not really a great second solve, of course, and definitely don't want to be giving away uncompetitive times in a tournament where single is the only thing that matters.
Definitely not. And again here, Chris, it's a case where a solve where you might be saying to yourself, okay, I could potentially safety this one. But again, you can't take any time here for granted in this competition. And Xuan Yu looks to get back in this one. A lot of inspection time used up, and here goes Xuan Yu. Yellow cross again for him here. A couple of pauses, trying to pick up his turning, trying to recognize the ZB. He does, 874, and we're square at 1.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the same story we're seeing here. So his ZBLS is taking quite a bit of time. Once again, he uses the wide F moves during F2L, which I sometimes don't recommend just because it's harder to look ahead. But again, he had a pretty easy time, I'd say, by his standards to beat, and able to get it done even with some of those mistakes.
Here goes Lucas. Much better pickup for him here. Still a couple of pauses throughout as he works through F2L. Finishes it there onto last layer. Now puts it down with an 879. So another time that's kind of middle ground right now, but not what Lucas is looking for.
Yeah, definitely not what Lucas is looking for. He had just kind of pauses after every F2L pair, and then one really big pause before one of them. Also, not the best E-perm there, so not the best solving that we're seeing from Lucas. But again, like you said, this is not like a time that Xuanyu can just walk to, especially with the cases that he's been getting so far.
Absolutely, and it's taken him time, too, to recognize each of these ZB cases that we've seen here so far. Let's see what Xuanyu has for this next solve here. 879, the time to beat. White cross the choice. Pretty solid pickup from Xuanyu. Little Locky, though, trying to finish F2L in time. On to ZB. This isn't going to do it. A 918. Lucas is up 2-1.
And this time, he didn't even do a ZBLS. He kind of just let the OLO that he was going to get come to him and then try doing ZB from there. But at that point, you're just doing like a lot of inefficient CFOP. So yeah, definitely, again, not the cases that Xuanyu is used to getting in his official solves, and it's really costing him here.
Lucas on the verge here of moving on, looking to put down a good time. Red cross the choice for him here. Pretty solid turning quickly through F2L on the last layer. 696. Much better from Lucas.
Yeah, and then the closeout solve, it's really, really going to put a lot of pressure on Xuanyu here, because even when he's been turning up his solving, it doesn't seem to be enough. And now Lucas is getting, so far, what's been his best time of this match. So Xuanyu definitely looking at a lot of pressure here. This might be his last solve of the tournament.
Anything can happen here in PSL, and Xuanyu, as Chris mentioned, looking to stay alive here. Has to get a 695 or better. A tall drink of water for him here.
That's weird.
And before anything else, looks like we have an issue with the timer. So we're going to pause here to potentially get a restart of the timer here. So Xuanyu going to have to sit and wait for a little bit while this issue with the timer is resolved.
It's our first kind of technical difficulty that we've seen so far. So kind of a free timeout here for both competitors. Whether or not that's going to benefit either of them, I'm not so sure. But maybe for Xuanyu, kind of a bit of a break, a much needed break that he might need. So hopefully this technical timeout helps him out a little bit.
We're getting official word here from our wonderful crew on site in the British Columbia that the timer ran out of batteries, it sounds like. So looking to get any, it's probably going to be interesting to see if he can go around the venue and see if he can get any batteries on hand. What do you think it takes, Chris? AA, AAA? What batteries we talking here?
Well, we're using a bit of a different timer than I'm used to seeing in like WCA competitions. This is using time-based as opposed to just the regular stack mat, so I'm sure it's still compatible with the same batteries. I mean, that looks like AA to me. But yeah, I mean, I think we're always hoping that batteries are compatible between every type of timer that we're using. So good stuff here from Michael to be prepared with plenty of batteries at hand.
Absolutely. Stuff like this happens. And again, big shout out to the wonderful crew on site here today. Michael Chai, of course, making things happen. Aaron Farrago running graphics. Lucas Aubin running the camera. Our wonderful crew with Speedcubing TV. We appreciate them, and we appreciate all you watching this rendition of PSL Langley. It's been a great season 2 of PSL here, Chris. And after this, a little bit of an early preview. We'll be taking a break so far after this one, and we won't see you again in the PSL until August for PSL Michigan coming up as you get your look at the bracket here. So after this, it'll sort of be a little bit of a break as we're knee-deep as well into regional and continental championship season as well in the WCA.
Yeah, and I love that you bring up Season 2, because now that we're seeing some competitors coming back to compete in the PSL. We're getting a lot more storylines, which is always a lot more fun to think about, especially like we're having right now with Kyle and Dylan, these storylines that can only happen if everybody's competing multiple times. And I didn't even consider that, really, that we're going to have a bit of a break with PSL just because of the summer. There's a lot of really big WCA competitions that are going on. So that is what explains kind of the brief hiatus here in PSL. And we're going to be seeing a lot of fireworks during those continental and national championships.
Absolutely. Great Lakes Championships going on right now in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And of course, North American Championships coming up in July. And we're getting official word from the venue here as well because of that technical difficulty we're having with time base. This is going to be deemed a resolve, so that 696 for Lucas will no longer count. And that's got to get into his head a little bit, Chris, because you mentioned closeout solve. It's a pivotal solve, and that was probably Lucas's best time of the set here, so this could be jarring for him mentally.
Yeah, I think that pretty firmly answers the question of who's going to benefit the most from this. I think it's definitely Xuanyu, because now he doesn't have to beat a 696, although Lucas can definitely make me eat my words if he gets an even better time here.
Pretty quick inspection time for Lucas. White cross the choice. Pretty slow turning to start, though. Little Locky through F2L onto last layer. Puts it down with a 759. So slower time than that 696 to start.
Okay, so it looks like the benefit does go to Xuanyu a little bit here, but 750 is still a pretty tough time to beat, especially with the way that Xuanyu's been solving. So he does get benefited there, but not as much as I think he would have hoped for, because Lucas is still solving really, really well.
Xuanyu definitely has the potential to put down a good time. WCA PR single of 560, his PR average of 690. So we've yet to see those fast times from Xuanyu. He can put them down. Once again, all the pressure on him here, as Lucas can only wait and watch. Match point here in lower quarterfinals. Here goes Xuanyu. Solid pickup, working on white cross, trying to make up for it in his turning. Trying to finish up F2L in time. This isn't going to do it. He'll put this one down with a 990, and Lucas is moving on to lower semifinals.
He's on really good pace there, and once again, I don't think he knew the ZBLS, so he just took the OLL and decided to do ZB from there. So really, really difficult to make up time when you're not doing the method that you're kind of setting out to do. But really good solving from Lucas there. A good job from him to come back after dropping his last match.
The kind of stuff you want to see from the number 3 seed. A rough start to the competition, finding himself early in the lower bracket, but able to bounce back and move on to the lower semifinals. Lucas is still alive. Xuanyu Sun's tournament has unfortunately come to an early end for him here, but great to see Xuanyu make his PSL debut, and hopefully we see him return to future competitions. Well, we're going to get you ready for the next lower quarterfinals matchup. Jeremy Shang and Devin Ragu coming up. It'll be 5 versus 6 here. And once again, first to 3 solves will win the set and move on to play Lucas Kuchai. Devin in this one, looking to get through here in this one after dropping the first match to Lucas Kuchai in the winter quarterfinals. So Devin has had some time to wait, as has Jeremy as well.
Yeah, and then as opposed to that last match where one competitor, being Lucas, kind of going straight from competing right back into competing, while Xuanyu had to sit for a while, both Jeremy and Devin have had to sit for a pretty long time here, so they're kind of working under the same preparation time. So we'll see who's done more with the time that they have so far. But for Devin, I think he's been solving pretty well by his standards, whereas Jeremy has been struggling quite a bit. So we'll see if they're able to kind of reverse that there, with Jeremy solving a little bit better than he has in the previous rounds.
No doubt, Devin going to be solving first here in this lower quarterfinals. And Devin, when asked about this event and why did he register for it, he is optimistic about this as well. because he loves the potential of this being one of the marquee events and a new future in competitive speed cubing with this head-to-head format. So really great to see Devin show that optimism for the future of competitive speed cubing, and what a better time to do it than right here in Canada, in his home country.
Absolutely, and it just gives him more experience going forward for competing under pressure. I think that's always one of the hardest things to kind of simulate when you're practicing for big competitions, because you can never really simulate the crowd, you can never simulate the environment. So it's a good alternative to compete in PSL. Just gives yourself more experience.
Absolutely. Devin going up for his first solve in lower quarterfinals. Pretty lucky to start, though. Still looking to finish F2L. Able to do so on the last layer. Now 10:32 to start for Devin.
And that was a bit of an interesting ZBLS there, because he did end up with the ZB, but it looked like his ZBLS was kind of just like an OLO algorithm, not necessarily like the ZBLS algorithm. So yeah, you can see for Devin, not the best time for him to start out after having to sit for quite a while.
Two natives of Vancouver, two who use CFOP and ZB as well. So very, very similar here in this lower quarterfinals, I beg your pardon. Jeremy getting through the first match, escaping after that +2 penalty, and here he is now trying to make a deep run into the lower bracket here. 10:32, the time to beat. On to the ZB case now. A very quick case at that, a 7:69, and Jeremy's up 1-0.
Yeah, and finally, Jeremy is getting pretty good cases there. That's one of the shortest ZB algorithms that you can have that aren't just like the regular OLO algorithm. So it's about time that Jeremy got a good case here. Also, very, very good solve during the F2L.
Devin going quickly here for his next solve. Pretty smooth turning through F2L. Quick last layer, 7-11 with the pump of the fist.
Yeah, and that time, no ZB there, just opted to go with regular last layer, but it was one of the best last layers that you can get, the TOLL into a J permutation. So executed really cleanly there. Way to not hesitate on that, because if you know that you're not going for ZB, you can kind of throw yourself off there, but no hesitation there going into the last layer.
This would be a good response for Devin here to try and put the pressure on Jeremy here. 7-11, the time to beat here for Shang. See what he can put down here on this next solve. White cross the choice here for Jeremy. Pretty smooth turning overall. Trying to look for a quick F2L on the last layer. +2! A 9:34. That would have been a slower time anyways, but we're square at 1.
Yeah, I'm not mad at the +2 there. You might as well try to stop the timer as quickly as possible, because obviously the time wasn't going to be quick enough anyways. But even for Jeremy, it looked like he kind of ditched the ZB method there. He ended up with a Soon, and instead of taking the time to recognize whether or not he knew the ZB, he's just like, I'm just going to go straight for the Soon because I think it's going to be faster. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but I think it would have been faster than if he just paused on the ZB.
Even at 1 here in the second of 2 lower quarterfinals matchup. Winner of this will be moving on to play Lucas Kuchai in the lower semifinals. Devin after that 7-11. Let's see what he can put down here. Pretty lucky to start out. Looking to get through F2L, able to do so. MU moves to finish it off, and 8:08 for Devin.
Yeah, an 8:080 there for Devin. 2 straight pumps of the fists for him. And once again, it looks like they're kind of just not taking the chance on knowing the ZB. So if they know, like, okay, I don't know every case in this set, then I'm just going to go for the COLL or the regular OLL. Seems to be paying some dividends here, because they're getting better times than they were in their previous matches.
Absolutely. Really good to see here down the line from both competitors sort of turn up the heat a little bit the more they start solving. 8:08, the time to beat here for Jeremy. Let's see what he can pull out here. Little slow pickup, but very solid turning to start out through F2L. Quick last layer, 597. Solid stuff from Jeremy. He's up 2-1.
And for Jeremy, that's only 0.14 off of his official PR. So great stuff from Jeremy there. And once again, he's getting the Soon, and he's like, I don't care if I don't know the ZB for this. I'm gonna go for the Soon. And in this case, he goes Soon into A perm, really cleanly executed. And that's his first sub 6 of the competition so far.
Also his best solve of his PSL career. Great to see from Jeremy. Devin finishing up this solve here through F2L on the last layer now. Pretty locky throughout the solve, 948.
And it looks like this is kind of the first solve where ditching the ZB doesn't exactly pay immediate dividends. So Devin didn't do ZB on that solve and ended up not with a great time there. But Jeremy's time was so good that I don't really know if he cared. So just having good solves down the stretch is what Devin's going to need, especially now that he's down 2-1.
And this is match point here for this one. Jeremy looking to beat a 948 to move on, well within his wheelhouse. Smooth turning to start out for Jeremy. Trying to recognize the ZB. Little Locky puts it down with an 838. He gets the job done. Lucas, Jeremy coming up next.
And great stuff from Jeremy there. He responded really well after a pretty rough first round for him. Ditches the ZB and he gets much, much better times, and he's moving on.
Good stuff to see from Jeremy here in this one. That 5-second solve, highlight of that round so far, and his fastest solve in his young PSL career. And he's moving on to play Lucas Kuchai. We'll take a quick break. Come on right back for lower semifinals. Don't go anywhere. Our coverage of PSL Langley returns right after this on Speedcubing TV.
Moving to one of the shelters that I lived in, just going outside, you'd realize and notice all the people and how dangerous they were thinking, the thoughts that they were thinking of doing.
I think the worst thing that I've been through was watching my dad get arrested in front of me.
Well, it was really hard seeing my mom be broken. And I just hated seeing her like that.
Join For the Need in breaking the cycle of homelessness for children. Together, we can make a difference. Donate today at fortheneed.org.
Hey, we're your Speedcube shop. We are your one-stop shop for anything cubing or puzzle related and have something for everyone, beginner or pro. If you want the best of the best, allow us to lend you our years of experience and consider one of our premium setup Speedcubes. Our team of experts will dial in your Speedcube by applying lubricants and adjusting the settings so that when your cube arrives, you're ready to start crushing your PBs. Have any questions? Our team is available via phone, live chat, or email to help get you on track. Tap the link to find your next challenge or upgrade and enjoy what we and many others consider to be the best shopping experience around.
So leave my sweater on the porch. I'll leave your bag under the stairs. Don't go back to our old place. It's probably locked up anyway. I bet it still looks the same as when I ran away that day. Doesn't matter anyway.
Back here at PSL Langley, Michael Rosenkrantz, Chris Yen alongside you. Glad to have you along here on this Saturday, June 6th, and getting your look at the bracket here. Jeremy moving on here in this one. So it'll be Lucas and Jeremy coming up here in this next one for lower semifinals. But hey, look, it's not just cubing that's going on today, Chris. I mean, you got chess with the Fraser Valley Chess Academy. You got robotics too. So, I mean, Zebra Robotics in the house too. So, I mean, it's a full house at PSL Langley today. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, and it's pretty similar to in PSL Seattle last season, where they're, being in the arcade, being in all these venues where there's a lot of different stuff happening. I mean, PSL Davis was during picnic day at UC Davis. So a lot of things going on around that just means more opportunity for people to pop in and see what this fire that's going on with cubing is happening. A lot more pressure on these competitors for sure too, because there's a lot more eyes on them as they're competing.
And speaking of fire, how about that 597 for Jeremy just a few moments ago? Almost seemed like it came out of nowhere the way he's been starting, but really good to see him put down a sub 6 second solve.
Yeah, you're right. That absolutely came out of nowhere because up to that point, Jeremy wasn't really getting anything below even 7 seconds. And all of a sudden he pulls out a sub 6, like right underneath his PR single. So really good stuff from Jeremy.
Lower semifinals, off we go. Lucas getting started on Red Cross here, quickly through F2L, on the last layer. 6:21 to start for Lucas.
Yeah, now we're getting into the rounds where everybody's had to at least win one match so far. And so everybody has pretty good momentum going on their side. Lucas just coming off of a win in his lower bracket previous round, whereas Jeremy coming off the win that you just saw. So really good stuff and a really good start by Lucas for this round.
Lower semifinals, best of 3, so it'll once again be the first person to take 2 sets. We'll be moving on to the lower finals. Jeremy starting against Lucas. Look at that turn speed picking up for Jeremy here through F2L on the last layer. 584! Jeremy's up 1-0.
Oh my goodness, and that's back-to-back, or maybe not back-to-back, but that's 2 5s pretty quickly for Jeremy after he's, started off just getting 7-second solves and taking a solve that I absolutely did not expect him to. It was a great start from Lucas with 621, but Jeremy coming and taking that solve from Lucas.
And you got to think here, Chris, later into this tournament, could we see Jeremy finally starting to pick up the pace a little bit and bring some high caliber solving here? Lucas finishing up on a blue cross on the last layer, 763.
Once again, Lucas is color neutral, so he has a bit of an edge when it comes to his starts, but it looked like this time he didn't know the ZB, and I think it's actually a ZB that Jeremy had earlier in the competition, so he definitely knows it, and unfortunately, Lucas not being able to take advantage after his solve started off on a really good pace.
So that's now 2 5-second solves, a 597, now a 584. That is a new PSL record for Jeremy. See if he can keep on this pace here. 763, the time to beat, set by Lucas. Working on a white cross this time. Pretty solid turning, a little bit of a pause in there through F2L on the last layer. A 714. Jeremy's taken 2 straight to start.
And he's just been a different solver ever since that 5. It's just he's been turning up his turning, his look ahead is better. Everything about his solving has been better ever since then. So just different beast that we're seeing from Jeremy now. Again, he's kind of ditching the ZB. He's just going for straight CFOP, and it's paying immediate dividends for him.
It sure is. Lucas down in an early hole as the 3 seed, 2-0, solving on Red Cross here. Chill trying to get through F2L, does so finally. Last layer, 855. And you got to think these times are starting to get into the head of Lucas.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe Lucas is kind of surprised that Jeremy is putting up this big of a fight because before this, I think Lucas was probably thinking this might have been an easy win with the times that they were getting before. You could see that his turning was a little bit nerve-wracking there, like a bit sloppy, not the great cases. So Jeremy in the driver's seat here, although 8.55 still is not the easiest time to beat.
Jeremy up 2-0 over 3-seeded Lucas Kuchai. Little slow pickup for him here. Little bit of a pause on the turning, trying to recognize ZB. Puts it down with a 769. A clean sweep for Jeremy in set 1.
Ooh, and I can feel an upset brewing here. Even in the solve where he had like a bit of a hesitation there, it looked like he safetied his way to his 769. So Jeremy, again, like this is a different solver that we've seen in the past couple rounds. Once again, he didn't ditch the ZB that time, but kind of solving a little bit more safely. His turning has also turned up quite significantly. He's not really hesitating anymore on his F2L pairs. So this is actually going to be a pretty tough climb now for Lucas if Jeremy is going to keep solving like this.
Jeremy going to be solving first here in set number 2. My goodness, what a run this has been for Jeremy, entering in as the number 5 seed. He wants to get back to potentially that winner's side, and if he takes this one, he would eliminate Lucas Kuchai from this entire tournament, something that we did not expect. But what a story this has been so far for Jeremy. Here he goes, solving first. White cross the choice. Pretty solid turning. Little locky in some spots. Trying to recognize the ZB case. Lots of time to recognize it, though. Soft tap of the timer, 11:52.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think this is the kind of stuff that we were seeing from Jeremy in the first round. So a bit hesitant on the ZB, on a ZB that you don't really expect a ZB solver to hesitate on. So Jeremy needs to stay locked in here. But of course, he did win the first set, so he has a couple solves to give away here.
Yes, he does. Door open here for Lucas. Hasn't been the fastest solve we've seen from him. Looking through F2 on the last player, calmly with 41, and Lucas is on the board here in lower semifinals.
Yeah, that was a really clean, fundamental solution by Lucas there. Not really any pauses or big lockups. So that's the Lucas that we were seeing more of in the previous round. So maybe kind of the surprise of the really different solving that we're seeing from Jeremy has faded. And now Jeremy needs to lock back in because it looks like Lucas has already.
And if Lucas can keep up that momentum from that 641, he could be trying to make a comeback here in a lower semifinals. Here's Jeremy. Up 1-0 over Lucas in this one. Pretty locky to start out for Jeremy. Quickly through onto ZB, 638. That's a solid recovery.
Yeah, and he got a really, really good ZB case there. Some would argue maybe it wasn't even ZB because it's just kind of the standard OLO algorithm. But for Jeremy, what's really struck me about his solving ever since he's kind of heated up here is that his first pair fluidity has been very, very good. I think before we were seeing do his first pair and kind of pause a lot and lock up after that. But ever since then, good first pair and good rest of the F2L for him.
Absolutely. Green cross here for Lucas. Little locky through F2L on the last layer. Not quick enough, though. 742, and we're square at 1 in set 2.
And unfortunately, it doesn't look like the color neutrality is enough to kind of offset Jeremy's hot streak here. Didn't get the best last layer case, or at least the best PLL on green cross there. So honestly, for Lucas, I'm not exactly sure what he can do here because it just looks like Jeremy's in a different zone right now.
And especially here, it could be dire straits for Lucas because he's going second in this second set. So he has to wait every single time to see what time Jeremy puts down. So it is a lot of waiting and a lot of mental anguish for Lucas here. It's a pretty solid start for Jeremy. Quick ZB, 8-11 though for that one.
So it was a similar pace to what we've been seeing from Jeremy on his hot streak, except this time he does the double rotation at the end just to make sure he gets the ZB and then a bit of his sloppy ZB execution. So once again, kind of the ZB isn't really working for him, at least in that particular solve, but still a pretty good time from him.
8 seconds.
Lucas had a nice block on green that he could work with, and sure enough, he goes with green cross here. Solid turning for Lucas to start through F2L. Quick last layer, 670. He's up 2-1.
Yeah, and once again, you could see just really, really fundamentally sound solution by Lucas here. No extra turns, really good OLL into a very cleanly executed F permutation. So that's kind of the stuff that we're used to seeing from Lucas, really good fundamentals and good turning there. So he can kind of take his advantage back here if he's able to take a set where he's solving second, like you mentioned. So kind of a lot of pressure on Jeremy here because he needs to be taking the sets where he's solving first.
This would be a heck of a comeback for Lucas to try and force it to a set 3 here. See if Jeremy can get back on the rails here. Pretty solid turning to start out. A little bit of a pause is trying to recognize. Still working on finishing F2L. Does so, puts it down with a 959. So it's been a rougher back half of this set for Jeremy.
Yeah, and I wonder if Jeremy's almost using this set to see if the ZB can still work for him, but so far it absolutely is not. I mean, he tried doing it there again, and he's just taking a little bit too much time to recognize and execute his ZB. So I don't know if he realizes how much better he's been solving with just CFOP, but it's definitely time for him to return to that.
Set point here for Lucas, trying to force it to a set 3. Pretty lucky to start out through F2L. Last layer puts that one down with a 784, and we are indeed moving on to set 3.
Yeah, and it looked like he went even safer on that solve than usual. We've been talking about his kind of slower pickup times, and this one was pretty methodical at the beginning here. Maybe he didn't fully plan his start, but it doesn't really seem to matter because the rest of the solve was pretty fluid, and Jeremy coming off of such a bad solve by his standards in this hot streak, it seemed almost easy for Lucas to take that solve.
Now the roles are reversed here. Lucas solving first. Jeremy can only wait and watch and see what times Lucas can put down here. It hasn't been the most solid of competitions for Lucas here, but he's trying to get that momentum back after taking set number 2. That got to be a big confidence booster for him here. Let's see who moves on in this third and final set. Off we go. Better pickup for Lucas. White cross the choice. Finishes F2L there. Fast last layer, 612. That's a good start for Lucas.
Yeah, really good stuff from Lucas there. Decided to do the rotationless A-perm, so really fluid solve from him. Again, really very good fundamental solution. So if that's the kind of stuff that Lucas is going to be doing in this third set, then I think Jeremy absolutely needs to go back to what he was doing on his hot streak.
No doubt. Pressure already on Jeremy early, though, in set 3. After he clean swept set 1, he now has to beat a 612. Fast turning here for Jeremy. Trying to get through F2L quickly onto last layer now. Little Locky wasn't going to be quick enough anyways. 8-17, and Lucas is up 1-0 in set 3.
And they both went for white that time. Looked like a really easy start. Like 3/4 of the cross was already made. And you can tell that, again, Jeremy kind of ditched the ZB. So maybe he does realize that the ZB isn't really working out for him. Unfortunately, got hit with a pretty bad V-perm there. I don't think a clean execution would have even been able to beat it.
Lucas back up for his next solve here in this third set. He leads 1-0. Orange cross this time for him, trying to finish up F2L. He does so. Onto last layer. Very lucky. Soft tap of the timer. 999 with a sarcastic pump of the fist.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's sub 10, barely. But kind of uncharacteristic lockups for Lucas there in the last layer. We're used to seeing him have really good turning. And so for Jeremy, this could be really big for him to kind of take back a solve.
Absolutely. Something like this needed to happen in the case for Jeremy here. Trying to get back in this one. Swept set 1, fell 3-1 in set 2. And now Lucas currently leads 1-0 in set number 3. We apologize for the incorrect graphic up there. We'll get that updated for you hopefully soon. But Jeremy looking to get back in this third set here. 999, the time to beat. He once again goes for white here. Pretty solid turning quickly through F2L. On to last layer. Puts it down with a 7-67. And we are square at 1 in set 3.
All right, so it kind of looks like in this set, Jeremy has firmly ditched the ZB, and it's working for him so far. His solving has been much better, at least in the F2L, because he's not wasting so much time doing his ZBLS on his last pair.
Lower semifinals, set 3. What a match this has been between Lucas and Jeremy. Lucas coming back in set 2 to tie it at 1 set apiece. He's looking to try and move on. Same thing for Jeremy. Through F2L, MU moves to finish it off with a 661. Lucas starting to heat up a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. He is heating up, and that color neutrality looks like it's helping a little bit because his starts have been much better in this particular set compared to the last one. Very fluid. He's not pausing after his first pair, which I think he was doing a lot more in the set that he dropped.
Great to see the adjustments made in the later rounds here. We're tied at 1 in set 3. 661, the time to beat here for Jeremy, who's looking to potentially upset number 3 seeded Lucas Kuchai. Lucas has found his groove. Let's see what Jeremy can produce here. Pretty slow pickup and a very locky start. Has to make up for it quick in his turning. This isn't going to do it here for Jeremy. He'll put this one down at the end with a 1063, and Lucas is up 2-1 in set 3.
Jeremy, is now looking at the verge of elimination here. I know it's a lot of pressure on him because now he's solving second, so really makes it a big deal that he dropped the set where he was going first, because now there's enormous pressure going into him on this last solve.
And it's even tougher for him when he dropped that second set as well to try and experiment things out. Here goes Lucas. Orange Cross is the choice. Pretty locky start, but quickly through F2L on the last layer. 666, and Lucas hopefully is hoping that is not a bad omen for him.
Absolutely not. Not in cubing. A 6.66 is really good, especially by Lucas's standards in this tournament. So doing a really good job to give himself a really good chance at moving on here. Pretty interesting execution of his last slot there. I'm not exactly sure what he was doing, but it seemed to work out and he executed it pretty quickly. So good stuff from Lucas.
Match point here in this one. Lucas can only wait and watch. Jeremy has to get a 665 or better to stay alive. He has the potential. Here he goes. White Cross the choice. Rough pickup, trying to make up for it in his turning here. Trying to get through it fast enough. This isn't going to do it. He'll put it down with a 904. And Lucas comes back to win the last 2 sets. He's moving on to lower finals.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Jeremy there, his really good hot streak wasn't quite enough to beat the 3 seed in Lucas. But we're going to be seeing Lucas again pretty soon.
Indeed we will. Jeremy had a promising run in that PSL Langley. Couple 5-second solves in there as well, but unfortunately he sees his tournament come to an end here. We are now down to 4 in a PSL Langley. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, winners finals. Dylan Miller, Kyle Santucci, grab some popcorn. You're not going to want to miss this. PSL Langley returns on Speedcubing TV right after this.
Moving to one of the shelters that I lived in, just going outside, you'd realize and notice all the people and how dangerous they were thinking, the thoughts that they were thinking of doing.
I think the worst thing that I've been through was watching my dad get arrested in front of me.
Well, it was really hard seeing my mom be broken. And I just hated seeing her like that.
Join For the Need in breaking the cycle of homelessness for children. Together, we can make a difference. Donate today at fortheneed.org.
Hey, we're Speedcube Shop. We are your one-stop shop for anything cubing or puzzle related and have something for everyone, beginner or pro. If you want the best of the best, allow us to lend you our years of experience and consider one of our premium setup Speedcubes. Our team of experts will dial in your Speedcube by applying lubricants and adjusting the settings so that when your cube arrives, you're ready to start crushing your PBs. Have any questions? Our team is available via phone, live chat, or email to help get you on track. Tap the link to find your next challenge or upgrade and enjoy what we and many others consider to be the best shopping experience around.
So leave my sweater on the board. I'll leave your bag under the stairs. Don't go back to our old place. It's probably locked up anyway. I bet it still looks the same as when I ran away that day. Doesn't matter anyway.
We're back at PSL Langley. Michael Rosencrantz, Chris Yen alongside you. And here we go. Kyle Santucci, Dylan Miller meeting in winners finals. And what we can expect is a preview for potentially the grand finals and as well as the PSL championship in October coming up later this year. Well, Chris, I mean, simply put, this is what you pay to see.
Yep, it's exactly what we came here for. This is matchup number 3 between these two. Of course, Kyle taking home 2 of them, and for Dylan, I think he's looking to kind of put his name back in this whole rivalry thing because he needs to take at least one of these out of the 3 for this to keep continuing. But of course, Kyle is the 1 seed for a reason. You notice that he has a bit of a higher variance than Dylan does in his solving, which is pretty impressive because Dylan has a lot more solves in PSL than Kyle does. But it doesn't seem like that's mattered, especially when they've matched up together. So we'll see if that variance really comes back for either competitor here.
Absolutely. Dylan on the verge of reaching almost 100 total sets in the Premier Speedcubing League, and he's pretty much been to, I think, if not all, almost every single one of them. I mean, it's been really, really impressive to see for the longevity here in the PSL for Dylan Miller. And you mentioned it, Chris. He's looking for revenge against Kyle. He's looking to get that monkey off of his back here. Kyle up 2-0 in this rivalry. And taking you back to PSL Davis, Kyle forced a bracket reset, the first bracket reset in the Premier Speedcubing League, and come back to win that. So Kyle won a total of 6 sets at PSL Davis to eventually get the win from Dylan Miller. But here in PSL Langley, Dylan trying to get over the hump. He's solving first in winners finals. Best of 3. Winner will be moving on to grand finals. We might have an incident here for Dylan, or maybe not. No, here he goes here on his first solve. He's going to want to put this one behind him, though. Puts that one down with a 795. I don't know if he saw something with the timer or something that he saw.
Like either
you
the
can
timer,
hear
it was switched to a different mode, or it turned off on him. Maybe he needed to reset the time, but he's asking for an E1 here, which, yeah, definitely not the way you want to start this first round.
And you can hear in the venue right here, Dylan explaining to Michael Chai, I had to turn my timer on for this one. So another incident we could be looking at here potentially. Let's see what happens. And yeah, there you see it. Dylan turning on that timer with his left finger there as he just finished up with inspection. Yeah, everything else seemed fine, but just as he finished up inspection, he went ahead and turned on that timer again. So once again, we should be getting another extra solve here, or a resolve coming up here for Dylan, you would think.
Yeah, and he's probably good to put that solve behind him too. It didn't look like he had anything really great planned there. So a bit of a save, but also not really the start that you want to such a big round, because a little bit of the momentum's off, kind of throws you off of your rhythm. But for Dylan, we'll see how he responds, and for Kyle, it just gives him a little bit more time to think about it and prep.
We talk about this a lot here, Chris, the head-to-head matchups between Dylan and Kyle, but what has been, in your mind, the reason that he struggled to get over the hump against Kyle?
You know, I think Kyle, after Dylan, is the most seasoned PSL competitor, so I think the fact that he sees him so often is probably what gets him in his head, because technically Kyle isn't actually the 1 seed when it comes to the PSL. It still belongs to Timon Koloshinsky, but Timon doesn't compete in PSL very often. So for Dylan, the one who competes the most often, Kyle is most often the one that's in his way to wins.
This is indeed a resolve here for Dylan. It puts that one down with a much better 585.
Yep, and great stuff coming from Dylan. And we talked earlier about the variance between these two. Dylan's variance is not very high, whereas we've seen Kyle have some rounds where he looked pretty beatable. I had a couple chances to eliminate him while I was competing in Davis, and kind of the same thing with like the mental block. Like, am I really about to have a chance against Kyle Santucci? But that variance is definitely apparent when it comes to his solving.
Pressure on Kyle here early. White crossed the choice for him here. Pretty lucky to start. Quickly through F2L onto last layer. Not quick enough, though. 7:28, and Dylan is up early, 1-0.
Yeah, and hopefully for Kyle, this is just a result of a bad time and not indicative of what his solving is going to be like for the rest of this round, because like we were talking about with the variants, we've seen him have some rounds here where he's just kind of getting 7-second solves, which against Dylan is not going to be good enough.
Kyle's such a well-respected competitor as well. Took a picture earlier today with Devin Ragu ahead of competition. Always so great to see the camaraderie and respect in the community that all these cubers have for one another. Here's Dylan going up for solve number 2, up 1-0 after that 585. Let's see what he can produce here on solve number 2. He starts off with white, little locky to start for Dylan. Quick turning, trying to recognize potentially a ZB, 610 there for him.
Yeah, he preserved a free pair in the beginning of his solve. It looks like it didn't go as smoothly as he would have liked. And he did do EOZB there, which, you know, for Dylan is not something that we're very used to seeing. But that was extremely fluent for him. Just a little bit lucky on the execution, but still a really good solve by him nonetheless.
No doubt, here comes Kyle looking to get back on the rails after he dropped that first solve with a 7-second solve. Smoother turning for him here. Still trying to get through F2L onto last layer. Fumbles the cube. Wouldn't have stopped the timer enough anyways. Dylan's up 2-0.
And it looks like maybe the theme for this round for Kyle is he's going to be getting 7-second solves. But he actually opted to do his start from a different angle, and this is the angle that I would have opted for. Similar start to Dylan and for the rest of the F2L, but Kyle is using a bit more ZB than he is, and in this case, it's not going to benefit him.
Dylan's had a really solid start to this winners finals here so far. Looking to keep this momentum up. Now off he goes back on white. Very solid turning for him here to start. Quickly through F2L on the last layer. 549. Dylan is here.
Yeah, Dylan is cooking right now. He had a really, really good start, like absolutely flawless and pauseless first 2 pairs there. And his turning was flying in that solve. This is exactly what Dylan is like when he's at his best.
Once again, pressure on Kyle here. 5:49 the time to beat. Still looking to get through F2L. On to ZB now. 5:98. Fastest solve of the round, but not quick enough. A clean sweep for Dylan Miller in set 1.
Yeah, and it looks like Kyle might be opting to switch cubes here. He's not feeling super confident in his turning. Yeah, he's switching cubes, but in that solve, it just looked like he was a couple hesitations away from taking it. His F2L was also on really good pace, but maybe just a little bit of a lockup on the last pair and ZB, and that's what cost him in that solve.
At multiple PSLs, we've seen Dylan do that, switch cubes quite a bit, and now Kyle switching cubes here in this one. So it's honestly not really a good sign to see him switching cubes here, but let's see if that can serve as a benefactor here for him. Dylan now solving second, which is the position that he prefers not to be in. So let's see if Kyle will be re-looking to set the tone here and try and put that first set behind him.
Yeah, we've seen Dylan, when he's solving second, actually peer into the scramble that is being shown to the first competitor. I think this is going to be our first look at his first chance to do so in this tournament so far, so we'll see if he opts to do it. Personally, I don't know if it would help me too much to see the scramble just because I'm so far away, but Dylan has shown that he's done it a couple times, so let's see if he does it here.
So far, no. He's continuing to practice on his own time and just leaving the scramble here to Kyle. And now he gives a quick glance over at the end of inspection time. White cross here for Kyle. Pretty lucky to start through F2L. Been a rough couple solves here for Kyle. 7:41 to kick off set 2.
And it just looks like Kyle's turning isn't fully there. Also, not the easiest last layer or OLL case for him to execute. It's always a little bit difficult when you have a B move in your OLL. Yeah, it's just not the clean turning that we're used to seeing from Kyle.
Dylan once again looking to take advantage here. 7:41, the time to beat here set by Kyle a few moments ago. Dylan has all signs pointing up for him here. Should he win this second set, he'd be off to grand finals. Here he goes. White cross here for Dylan. Pretty locky, fast turning through F2L. MU moves 637. Dylan has taken 4 consecutive over Kyle.
And it looks like for Dylan, even his best solves, or even his mediocre solves by his standards still seem to be enough to beat Kyle, because Kyle is just not solving up to his standards at all right now.
He's not, and now you see Dylan in the background peering to look at the scramble here, even though he already got it. I beg your pardon, he did not already get it. Kyle's the first to solve here in this one. Puts that one down with a 6:46. So a faster time from Kyle, but will Dylan get that competitive advantage here by peering at the scramble ahead of time?
Yeah, he wasn't even trying to hide that. He was absolutely just peering over the shoulder to see what the scramble's like. And it's beneficial here because both Kyle and Dylan are white and yellow cross solvers.
So a faster time from Kyle, 6:46. But Dylan has had all the momentum on his side here. Looking to keep this going. Off he goes on his next solve. Solid pickup, smooth turning to start. A little bit of locky through F2L. Quick last layer, 6:14. Smooth and easy for Dylan. He's taken 5 straight.
Yeah, dominance from Dylan so far in this match. We're chalking this up to be a really, really close match, but so far he's taken all 5 stalls, and he was looking a little bit concerning there with a bit of a lockup on the third pair, but didn't seem to matter. The rest of the solve was really, really good.
And there's Dylan again, taking a look at that scramble. Kyle trying to show any signs of life here. Recognizing the last layer case, 6:25. Might have had a ZB there, but Dylan could be knocking on the doorstep.
Yeah, the way Dylan's solving 6:25 is not a surefire win. Good ZB execution there by Kyle, but maybe took a little bit too long on the recognition. Leaves the door open for Dylan a little bit.
No doubt. Match point here in winners finals. Dylan looking to make another clean sweep here in this one. What an impressive victory it would be to keep Kyle shut out here in this one, too. 6:25, the time to beat on your screen. Solid pickup for Dylan. Yellow cross the choice. A little bit locky through F2L. Quick last layer. 592. A shutout from Dylan Miller, and he is on to grand finals.
Yep, absolute shutout and dominance from Dylan there. So he's on to grand finals, but this isn't the last we're going to see from Kyle, and maybe not even the last we see from Kyle and Dylan. So really good stuff from Dylan there, and congrats to him for taking a match against Kyle.
That has got to feel really good for Dylan to get that start that he needs against Kyle, who's had the upper hand in this rivalry. Clean sweep of both sets, 6-0, immaculate from Dylan here in winners finals. And now we'll take a quick break and we'll come right back with the lower finals. Fellow Canadians going against each other, Kyle Santucci and Lucas Kuchai. Don't go anywhere. PSL Langley returns right after this.
At For the Need Foundation, we are committed to transforming young lives through the power of mentorship. Follow us at For the Need on Instagram and Facebook to stay up to date on how you can make change in your community. Together, we can prevent homelessness.
A 708!
No lucky turning here, and see you next week.
I want to keep going. Maybe that's what Dylan's trying to channel.
Back at PSL, Langley, Michael Rosencrantz, Chris Yen alongside you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Speedcubing TV. We're so glad to have you along on this June 6th, and we are now down to the lower finals, 1 versus 3. Kyle Santucci against Lucas Kuchai. Chris, it's been sort of a rougher competition for both Lucas and Kyle, especially Kyle in that last matchup against Dylan, but as we said, in these matchups, especially down the line, you're not going to have time to dwell on it. So Kyle looking to pick up the pieces here against Lucas Kuchai. A very, very storied history between Kyle and Lucas. They know each other very well.
Yep, two Canadians going at it on their home turf, and once again we have a bit of a difference in the preparation time here. Lucas had to sit for a little bit after he won his previous lower bracket, whereas Kyle is just coming off of a loss to Dylan. So somebody's coming off of a win, somebody's coming off of a loss, and they're meeting up together, facing elimination now. So going to be interesting to see how the two hometown heroes are going to fare against each other. Kyle being the very seasoned veteran in PSL versus Lucas, who's only competed once. But as far as I'm aware, Lucas has actually solved better by his standard than Kyle has by his. So we could be seeing an upset here.
You very well could. Anything can happen in the Premier Speedcubing League. And again, for those just joining us, it's worth noting that in that winners finals match, Kyle ended up switching his cube just because his turning has not really been there to start out in this one. So adjustments look to be made here by Kyle Santucci here in this one. Kyle getting ready to celebrate the 1-year anniversary as well of his 3x3 national record average for Canada. Back on June 14th of 2025, he got that 5:30 average set in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada, which is such a great milestone for Kyle, and he still holds that as his WC average to this day.
Yeah, definitely looking to break that sometime soon, but 5:30 is such a good average that you can't really expect to beat that in any given round. But for Kyle going into this, I think a first solve win would be really big for him because he got completely swept by Dylan in the last match.
It sure would be. Couldn't have said it better myself, Chris. Here goes Kyle to kick off lower finals. White cross the choice. Pretty smooth turning through F2L. Quick last layer, 661. Little bit locky, but some good things to take away at the end for Kyle.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that ended up being a 6.6 because right here and right there, he pauses to look at the bottom of the cube, which is usually a death sentence at the top level. Like, usually that means you're not going to get anything above or below 7 seconds, but Kyle's still able to pull it off.
Pressure on Lucas right away. 661 the time to beat. Orange cross the choice for him here. Little locky through F2L. MU moves to finish off last layer. 744, not quick enough. Kyle's up 1-0.
Yeah, and like I said, big win for Kyle there because he hasn't won a solve in quite a while. For Lucas, it looked like he was on pace to beat that. He had a really good last layer, but just not as fluid as I think he would have hoped. So unfortunate that he wasn't able to take home that solve.
8 seconds.
And there was that first solve win that you just discussed, Chris. Can that be a momentum booster here for Kyle? Very smooth turning through F2L on the last layer. Very lucky, 7-11, and that costed him right there.
Oh yeah, that was looking like it was going to be like almost a sub 5 even. But as soon as he got to the G-perm, this G-perm is a little bit difficult to execute under pressure. And you can see that he completely basically drops the cube here. And that really did cost him.
7-11, not convenient for Kyle there. And here goes Lucas. 7-11, the time to beat. Through F2L on the last layer now. But that's not quick enough. 7:31, and Kyle escapes that one by 0.2 of a second.
Oh my goodness, that was such such a throw there because he had like an entire second to do the last move, and just such a huge lockup there. Really, really unfortunate for Lucas because that was basically a gimme there. Like, yeah, the PLO just took basically 2 seconds, which you can never do at this level.
Tough luck there for Lucas. Here goes Kyle up 2-0. Quick turning for him here. A bit of a pause through F2L. Gets it down with a 542.
Yeah, we were just saying, like, you can't give away solves like that, and this is exactly why, because Kyle is just going to come back and get a 5.4. You can't afford to be giving away solves.
You cannot, especially this deep in the tournament. Lucas trying to get on the board. Has to beat a 542. This isn't going to do it, though. He'll put it down with an 8 flat. A clean sweep for Santucci. He takes set number 1.
And it looks like Lucas has almost even conceded the match here. He's already shaking Kyle's hand, but yeah, for Lucas, he just needs to lock in a little bit. He was basically just a couple lockups away or some fluidity issues away from winning a couple of those solves, so he still has a chance, but it really definitely hurt for him to give away that second solve there.
It sure did. Lucas, a student right now at Mount Royal University in Canada, studying computer science, also likes to collect old gaming consoles in his free time. So I wonder if he's got a stack of Atari, maybe GameCube, Game Boy stacked in there somewhere. Have to ask him about it one day for sure. Little locky here, though, for Lucas, as he's going to want to put this one behind him with a 976.
Yeah, this is not looking very good for Lucas here. He needs to lock in a little bit because Kyle's definitely not going to be conceding to these bad times that Lucas is getting.
Santucci showing no signs of slowing down here into this one. Sweeping the first set. And he's looking to get back up to grand finals where he would rematch against Dylan Miller. Pretty slow but methodical turning. Now picking it up a little bit here is Kyle. Pretty locky on the last layer. 895. A little close for comfort, but Kyle does end up taking that one.
Yeah, that was a little bit close for comfort. It looked like he was trying to safety the PLO, but it ended up backfiring, and now he's just turning slower and locking up. So not great by Kyle there, but still getting a solve to go.
4 straight for Kyle over Lucas. We're going to get on the board here in this lower finals. Slower pickup for Lucas to start. Smooth turning for him on the F2L. Quick last layer, 693. That's better from Lucas.
Better, but I'm not sure if this is going to be enough because it actually looked like a really easy extended cross on white. And you know Kyle is going to be taking advantage of that too. So not exactly what Lucas needed here on this scramble.
Kyle very quick in his inspection, and he does indeed go for white. Fast turning for him here through F2L. Quick last layer, 530. He does indeed take advantage of it. Kyle's taken 5 straight.
And that's exactly the kind of scramble that I think Kyle does best on, when he doesn't need to try super hard to go for the extended cross. And even with a bit of a lockup there in the beginning, it doesn't really seem to matter because, yeah, I mean, just crazy fluidity on this last slot.
No doubt, Lucas trying to show signs of life here in lower finals. Quickly through F2L on the last layer, 611. That one was much more fluid that time.
Yeah, and it's match point for Kyle, so good stuff from Lucas to be able to put a little bit of pressure here. It's not going to be an easy closeout for Kyle.
Certainly not. Match point here for Kyle. Very quick at his inspection. Here he goes. White cross again, the choice. Smooth turning. Looking to recognize the ZB case. Little longer case. Stops the timer with an 8 flat. My goodness.
Oh, that's exactly what he wanted to do. He was trying to get the 8 flat. And exactly, 8.000. But yeah, I mean, the solve was thrown away pretty early on. He didn't exactly know, or he hesitated a little bit in the beginning of his solve. So, you know, Kyle, again, has a couple solves to give away here. He's even up a full set. So not a lot of pressure on him if Lucas gets a really good solve.
Lucas is on the board, but again, still has a big hole to climb out of here.
8 seconds.
See what Kuchai can find here on this next solve. Here he goes on a green cross, that color neutrality once again. Smooth turning for him here through F2L onto last layer. 840. That looked to be good, but a couple of pauses, and that opens the door for Kyle.
Yeah, and he didn't know the ZB, so a bit longer on the last layer there. And for Kyle, when you're up 2-0, you're kind of just waiting for your opponent to give you an easy solve to win. And it looks like this could be it for Lucas.
8 seconds.
We shall see. Anything can happen. A lot of inspection time used up here for Kyle. And here he goes. Yellow cross the choice here for Kyle. Smooth turning to start. Still looking to get through F2L. On to last layer, a 7-17. Kyle finishes the job, and once again, we'll get a rematch of the rivalry.
Yep, we're going to see Kyle and Dylan once again, and this is the exact same situation they're in at PSL Davis when Kyle actually forced the first bracket reset that we've seen in PSL, and he even came back to win it. Is that going to happen again this time?
One can only ask these questions. Kyle with a lot of momentum going in against Dylan. Dylan's had to wait just a little bit, and Kyle going to be going right back into it against Dylan Miller. Again, we hope you can join us here for Grand Finals. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. PSL Langley returns right after this.
Moving to one of the shelters that I lived in, just going outside, you'd realize and notice all the people and how dangerous they were thinking, the thoughts that they were thinking of doing.
I think the worst thing that I've been through was watching my dad get arrested in front of me.
Well, it was really hard seeing my mom be broken. And I just hated seeing her like that.
Join For the Need in breaking the cycle of homelessness for children. Together, we can make a difference. Donate today at fortheneed.org.
Hey, we're your Speedcube shop. We are your one-stop shop for anything cubing or puzzle related and have something for everyone, beginner or pro. If you want the best of the best, allow us to lend you our years of experience and consider one of our premium setup Speedcubes. Our team of experts will dial in your Speedcube by applying lubricants and adjusting the settings so that when your cube arrives, you're ready to start crushing your PBs. Have any questions? Our team is available via phone, live chat, or email to help get you on track. Tap the link to find your next challenge or upgrade and enjoy what we and many others consider to be the best shopping experience around.
So leave my sweater on the board. I'll leave your bag under the stairs. Don't go back to our old place. It's probably locked up anyway. I bet it still looks the same as when I ran away that day. Doesn't matter anyway.
Welcome back to PSL Langley. Michael Rosencrans alongside the 45-time gold medalist Chris Yen. So glad to have you along. Chris, what is better than this? Grand Finals, 1 versus 2. Kyle Santucci versus Dylan Miller, a story we've seen so many times already. They're getting set to clash for a 3rd time in the Premier Speedcubing League. I could not be more excited.
And we just saw Dylan take one from Kyle to force Kyle into a bit of a tough position in the lower final. But of course, Kyle coming back with a vengeance, taking it in straight sets to advance to these grand finals. And once again, Kyle is coming into the grand finals with the lower positioning, so he would have to force a bracket reset in order to take this one. But it's not something he hasn't done yet because Kyle is the owner of the only bracket reset in PSL history just a few months ago in PSL Davis.
Indeed he is. You cannot think of a better script than this. And we hope you all at home are getting it ready for some fast-paced, electric solves that we're about to see from two of the best to ever do it in Dylan Miller and Kyle Santucci. Kyle going to be solving first, and as always in grand finals, it is best of 5, the first of 3 sets. In this case, Dylan, if he takes these 3 sets, it's over. And again, Kyle has to win 6 sets to reset the bracket and get another PSL title to his name. And here we go for grand finals. Kyle solving first. Yellow cross the choice to start for Kyle. Pretty smooth turning to start. Pretty pausey, though, in the middle of F2L. Quick recovery at the end, but a 682 to start.
And kind of a theme that we've seen throughout this tournament with everybody who's using ZB. Not the most fluid ZBLS for anybody here. So they're wasting a lot of time on their last slot, and it's not really getting them the times that they need.
It's been a lot of cases of that in this tournament. Just a lot of time to recognize the cases on ZB. 682 the time to beat for Dylan as he gets his first solve in of these grand finals. He's solving on yellow as well. Little Locky to start for him. Through F2L, quick last layer, puts it down with a 615. Dylan's up 1-0.
Yeah, and coming into this match, I think it's a little bit different different than the other two that we've seen from them, because Dylan, I think, is solving a lot better than Kyle is in this tournament so far. And you can see that he's peeking into the scramble this time as well, so he's going to be doing that every time he's going second.
Trying to get every competitive advantage he can. Kyle through F2L quickly. Quick last layer, 546. What a heck of a response from Kyle.
Yeah, great response from Kyle. I think he even expected that to be a little bit better because he was done with F2L around 3.5 seconds. So a 2-second last layer for a last layer that's not really that difficult to execute. So even for Kyle, he's looking to get better than that, but a really good response by him.
Now that puts some pressure on Dylan here, but as you know, Dylan more than capable of putting down faster times than that. His PSL record is 3.49. Here goes Dylan. Look at that pickup and that turn speed to start. Through F2L on the last layer, 449!
Oh my goodness, and Dylan, once again, it seems like he always turns it up a little bit in finals. And again, his fastest solve of the tournament, the fastest solve by anybody in the tournament, and it's coming in grand finals. He does this almost every single time, it seems like.
I'm ready.
What a response from Dylan. He's up 2-0 here in grand finals. Kyle looking to get back on the rails here. Locky start for him, though. Finishes up F2L onto last layer. Soft tap of the timer, 8:58.
Yeah, obviously a bit of a tall task to beat the 4.49 for Dylan there. So kind of a throwaway solve for Kyle. He can take a little bit of time to lock back in. But if Dylan is solving like this, then it's going to be a lot harder for Kyle to beat him like he has in the other 2 times they've matched up.
It's been all Dylan here so far in these grand finals. That 5-second solve by Kyle, a great response. Dylan did him one better. And now is the opportunity to sweep set number 1 here. Has to beat an 8:58. Here goes Dylan. Quick pickup, white cross the choice. Little Locky to start. Finishes F2L. Quick last layer. Calmly puts it down to the 623. A clean sweep of set number 1 for Dylan.
Yeah, and it was even a little bit locky for him, but got saved by a really nice last layer there. Executed it really well, too. And so Dylan definitely in the driver's seat here, taking the first set. A good omen for him after he's already taken a match from Kyle in this tournament.
Exactly, in that match a few short moments ago, it was a clean sweep of both sets. Kyle Santucci did not get a single point in winners finals. So Dylan on a great pace here for him so far. So against Kyle, he has taken 9 straight collectively over Santucci.
Yeah, it's complete dominance that we've seen from Dylan versus Kyle so far. Exactly not what we've expected because, like we said, Kyle's taken the first two of these matchups when it mattered most against Dylan, even taking that bracket reset, which, before we were even talking about, like, is the bracket reset ever going to happen? Is it worth keeping around? And all of a sudden, Kyle's able to pull it off and win after the bracket reset. So for Dylan, he definitely can't take his foot off the gas pedal here.
Certainly not. And now in set 2, he's in the spot he wants to be in. Solving first, he's looking to set the tone here and climb potentially even further away from Kyle Santucci here in this. Start here for Dylan. Little lucky, though, after that pickup through F2L. Quick and lucky last layer. Fumbles the cube. Another fumble. Soft tap of the timer. A 9:05 for Dylan.
Yeah, just a bit of a nightmare of turning for Dylan there, which, Dylan's best characteristic of his solving is his fast turning. So when that's not working out for him, then it's going to be really tough for him to get good times and just locking up basically at every step in that solution.
Doors open here for Kyle, looking to get his first point that would break the 9 consecutive solve streak of Dylan here. Yellow cross the choice here for Kyle. Very smooth and methodical turning through F2L on the last layer. Calmly puts it down with a 629, and Kyle is on the board.
Yeah, and really easy F2L it looked like for Kyle. He had a couple free pairs that I don't even think he was expecting. So very good turning from him as well in a time when he really needs to lock in on his turning because it looks like Dylan is solving at his best right now.
He absolutely is. Kyle take that last solve 1-0 in set number 2, but Dylan up overall in sets. Looking to bounce back here on this next solve. Good pickup and very solid turning for Dylan through F2L on the last layer. 465!
And there we go. Once again, Dylan getting the 4s in finals. His turning has turned up quite a bit here. No more lockups in that solve. So it looks like he's either going all in. He's either going to lock up for the entire solve or he's not going to lock up at all. And it's going to be a really, really good time. So good stuff from Dylan.
Kyle here trying to make up for it with his turning. Fast, but not fast enough. A 620. And we're square at 1 in set 2.
Ooh, and it looks like Kyle is changing his cube once again, so even the turning on this other cube isn't working out for him. And even in that solve, the fluidity was there. It's just that it was too long. Maybe his PLL was a little bit long, and that's another thing about Dylan is he has really fast turning, and his solutions are very fundamentally sound. So they're going to be generally shorter, I think, than the average cuber.
Dylan always very methodical in his preparation. Loves to utilize that deep breathing, and he's been able to control his nerves really, really well here this competition. Here he goes in the next solve. White cross the choice for him here. Little bit locky to start through F2L on the last layer. Puts it down with a 622.
Yeah, and whatever Casey decided to do there for his cross solution gave him a really bad second pair. You can see the green and red pair is really, really long, and that kind of throws off the rest of his F2L, but still able to get a 622 out of that, so pretty good stuff and kind of just shows you how well he's solving right now.
622 the time to beat for Kyle. Pretty lucky to start through F2L quickly on the last layer. 504! And Kyle's up 2-1 in set 2.
Yeah, getting the Olo skip on that. I don't even know if it was a ZBLS or if he's just trying to orient some edges there, but really good PLL as well, even after that lockup. Right there, the Olo skip into the J-perm with no AUF, and that's Kyle's bread and butter.
Great stuff from Kyle. He's looking to make a comeback in set number 2. Dylan down 2-1 in set 2, but once again, up overall 1-0 over Santucci. See what Dylan can find here on this next solve. White cross the choice. Solid turning to start. quickly through F2L on the last layer. Now a +2. 837 for Dylan.
Not the time for him to be getting the +2s because 637 so far has seemed to be a winnable time against Kyle, but yeah, and it didn't really look like he needed to rush the stop either. Maybe he felt a little bit rushed because he was locking up on his Olo, but yeah, it just looks like he did a bit of an extra flick there on the U-berm, which can happen sometimes.
No doubt. Door open here for Kyle to potentially take set number 2 here. 8:37 the time to beat, or rather 8:42 the time to beat for Dylan. Nope, it is 8:37. Seeing all the numbers change. Little lucky for Kyle, but he does put down a 6:49, and that is exactly what Kyle needed. We're squared at 1 set apiece.
Yeah, and his F2O was really solid in that solve. You'll notice that he does keyhole for his second to last pair here, which means that he doesn't need to rotate for his final pair in the front right. It took a little bit of time there to recognize the ZB, and it seems like that's been a theme for Kyle trying his ZB, but very good execution on him when he's able to recognize it. So Kyle back in the driver's seat here, although he's solving first again, which it seemed like that wasn't an advantage to him in the first set.
This is a pivotal third set here in Grand Finals. Michael Rosencrantz, Chris Yen with you. Glad to have you along at PSL Langley. The rivalry renewed here in Canada. Kyle Santucci in his home country, the native of Edmonton, Alberta. Dylan, the native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Both have punched their ticket already to PSL Championship in October, but this could greatly affect how the seeding is in October, where it's the chance for that PSL Championship title and that prize pool of $5,000. Kyle starting first on set number 3. White cross for Kyle. Little Locky through F2L onto last layer. Now 6:29 to kick off set 3 for Kyle.
And he finished with a similar last layer that he did earlier in the tournament, except this time he does the alternate algorithm that also might have forced a PLL skip. Once again, getting a little bit unlucky here because there was no PLL skip. And it looked like he was going really well until the end there, just a bit too long on the last layer. And that leaves the door a little bit open for Dylan.
Time to beat here for Dylan, 6:29 to start things out here in this one. Here he goes, white cross the choice, pretty solid pickup, smooth turning quickly through F2L on the last layer, 469, a calm 469 at that.
Yeah, that was a much shorter solution than what Kyle was able to find, so I have no idea what he saw that Kyle didn't. But for Dylan here, again, he's pulling out the 4s when it matters most. Yeah, just really short F2L there. There must have been some sort of like multi-slot or extended cross that maybe he didn't even plan, but he'll definitely take it.
Yes, he will. Anything to get him into this one. Again, you can see Dylan looking at that scramble, try and get any competitive advantage he can. Big pause on the pickup for Kyle to start, trying to make up for it. Had a corner twist in there as well. On the last layer, 767.
And this time, Kyle actually came dangerously close to over-inspecting, and that might have explained the lockup in the beginning of the solve because he was a bit nervous to kind of get going. Yeah, so a bit of a disaster of a solve for Kyle, especially because Dylan, once again, is solving at his best.
Again, can't be stated enough how pivotal this third set is in this one. Dylan only needs to win 3 total sets. Kyle needs to win a total of 6 sets if he wants any chance to keeping his undefeated streak alive against Dylan. 767, the time to beat. Here goes Dylan. Yellow cross. Good pickup for him to start. Quickly through F2L. Looking to recognize... Tried to recognize the ZB, went for MU moves instead. He puts it down with a 690, and he's up 2-0 in set 3.
Yeah, and it looked like during his F2L when he was doing his signature F moves, didn't work out for him quite that time. And yeah, just a really, really big pause there. And also doesn't know the ZB, which this case is not super expected for him to know the ZB, but unfortunately he gets the Z perm, which is probably the worst EPLL he could have asked for.
Kyle looking to get back on the right track, and he does here with a 540.
Yeah, really, really good last there from Kyle, and good execution during the F2L. That's exactly what he expects to get when he can execute his solves like that.
Pressure back on Dylan here, but plenty of fours we've seen from Dylan. He's found his groove here in the finals. Can he keep up this momentum and win a pivotal set 3? Big deep breath here for Dylan. 21st in the world for 3x3. One of the best to ever do it. 540 the time to beat for Dylan. And here he goes. White cross the choice for him here. Pretty locky. Trying to recognize the case on last layer. Puts it down with a 609. Dylan thought he had it, but not quick enough. And Kyle still has life in set 3.
And he was rushing to get through the last layer because I think he knew he needed to be a little bit more fluid based on the time he needed to get. But unfortunately, he decided to stop his OLL, go into the ZB, and it didn't quite work out for him.
Kyle trailing 2-1 in set number 3. Trying to recognize the ZB. He does and puts down a 611.
Yeah, and that time, pretty good recognition of the ZB, very good execution of his ZBLS as well. So 611 is a good time, although I'm sure he wanted better to kind of put away any doubt because Dylan can absolutely beat 611.
Yes, he can, but a respectable time for Kyle. But again, well within Dylan's wheelhouse here to beat a 611. See what he can find here on this next solution. It's a nice block there on white to start out here for this. Let's see if he goes for white cross here in this one. Indeed he does. Good pick up, smooth turning for him here. Through F2L, on the last layer, locks up, fumbles the cube, and it's an 830, and Kyle has tied up set 3. It's 2-2. And Dylan immediately signals for a timeout. You can see, Chris, his nerves are starting to get to him here. Kyle has found his groove, and Dylan getting in his head a little bit potentially. And this is what rivalries are all about, just getting in each other's heads any way that you can get.
Yeah, and you wonder if that is getting to Dylan because he had that solve. He had it. He had a really good last layer there. Pretty simple to execute, not one that you see a lot of top cubers lock up on, and it was just a complete disaster of an execution by him. So you wonder, is the pressure of finally getting over the hump and beating Kyle kind of getting to him? Because this is such a pivotal set. Is that a lot of pressure for Dylan to kind of pull out to get up 2-1 in this match?
If Dylan potentially gets up 2-1 here in this one, that would be a massive timeout called in his favor. And now this also plays into Kyle too, because they both have to sit and wait and think about it and stew on it for a little bit. And as a competitor, I mean, that can really, really get to you. And it can be tough to keep your mental state very sound here in this one. And I mean, again, this is what rivalries are all about. This is what you pay to see. 1 versus 2. Kyle versus Dylan. Rivalry renewed here at PSL Langley. And my goodness, whoever is going to come out with this third set, I'd argue, has a huge momentum swing here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And if Dylan comes out if he comes out with this third set, then it's going to be an even bigger uphill climb for Kyle because he needs to win an extra 3 sets just to get to the bracket reset. So if Dylan's able to take out this pivotal solve, then I think he's pretty much looking at a guaranteed victory because of the way he's been solving.
Timeout is officially over, and here we go. Back to live action here from PSL Langley. Kyle, after the timeout called by Dylan Miller, let's see what he can produce here on this next solve. Lot of inspection time used up, and here he goes. Yellow cross the choice for him here. Pretty smooth start. Little locky, though, through F2L on the last layer. 6-10. A good recovery for Kyle.
It was a good recovery. It looked like he did some D moves during the F2L to finish off. And a good time by Kyle. Good coming out of the timeout, because it's a little bit hard to kind of regain or regather yourself afterwards. But not sure if that's the time he's looking for, especially in such a pivotal solve.
6-10, the time to beat here for Dylan. Out of the timeout. Can he reset his mental game here and calm those nerves to keep this one going and potentially take this third set? Absolutely massive solve coming up right here. It's a block on green there for Dylan, but let's see what cross choice he decides to go with here. Lots of inspection used up, and here he goes. Yellow cross the choice for Dylan. Smooth turning to start through F2L on the last layer. A little locky, puts it down with a +2, and Kyle takes a massive solve, and he takes set 3, 3-2.
And once again, Dylan, he had it. He had that solve. He was on the F-firm, under 5 seconds left to go. F-firm is usually a pretty reliable execution for him, and he's just not able to pull it out. It looked like his theme for this solve was, I can't find any good solutions, so I'm just going to spam TPS to get through it. And it looked like it was going to work just until the F-perm. And yes, now Kyle is up 2-1 in sets. Really, really massive here for Dylan to be able to come back from this, because he cannot allow a bracket reset once again.
That would be worst case scenario here for Dylan. He's been through that once. He does not want to go through that a second time. Will history repeat itself here in this third rendition of the rivalry between Kyle Santucci and Dylan Miller? Time will tell. Set number 4. Dylan solving first in the position he wants to be. Dylan with a massive hole now to climb out of. Now that he trails 2-1 in the set total. Off he goes in set 4. White cross the choice. Solid start for Dylan. Looking to get through F2L. Very locky on the last layer. 691. Nerves are starting to get to Dylan a little bit here, Chris.
Yeah, and that's 3 solves in a row now with pretty massive lockups in the final stages of the solve. And you saw Dylan, once again, he's changing cubes, so nobody's really confident in their turning right now. And it looks like for this one, yeah, Dylan, he does the wrong OLL to start out there, so that kind of takes a lot of time away.
691, the time to beat for Kyle. Very fluid turning, bit of a pause, trying to recognize ZB. He does in time with a 615. Kyle's up 1-0 in set 4.
And he made up for that kind of long last slot, last layer there, because the rest of his F2L was so good. And pretty good execution for the ZB. He had plenty of time to spare because he got to that ZB really, really quickly.
Kyle, perhaps with newfound momentum here after taking that third set. Dylan trying to claw his way back into this one. See what he can find here on this next scramble. Going for yellow this time. Solid pickup, smooth turning for Dylan. Quickly through F2L and a quick last layer. 586. That was much needed.
Yeah, once again, a bit of a lockup there at the very end. Dylan's solving style for these past couple solves has just kind of been, I'm going to turn my way through this and just have pretty normal solutions. And it's been working out for the most part, except for just a couple of these pretty big lockups at the end. But this time, it doesn't come back too much to bite him, because 586 is still pretty good.
586, the time to beat. Yellow cross here for Kyle. Pretty locky to start. Looking to recognize the ZB, but it won't be in time. A 699. Dylan squared it up at 1 in set 4.
And for Kyle, again, he had one of those pauses where he really had to stop everything and look at the bottom of the cube to remember where he's at. We've seen that a couple times from him during this tournament, and it's definitely a death sentence in the finals. Maybe he was able to get away with it in the earlier rounds, but you definitely can't do that against Dylan.
And after those really big strings of 4-second solves earlier in the round here, Chris, it's been a lot of 6-second solves, some 7-second solves, even an outlier of a 9-second solve in there as well. So the nerves starting to get to Dylan, but perhaps a confidence booster now that he tied it up back at 1. Let's see what he can find here in this next solution. Yellow here for Dylan. Pretty smooth turning to start. Through F2L on the last layer. Quickly, a 560! Back-to-back fives for Dylan.
And he found a really good start here on yellow. I believe he went for an extended cross or something on blue and red because that pair was done really quickly. Yeah, he did. And he also knew the COLO here. Didn't take too much time to recognize if he knew some ZB or something. Just went right into the COLO, which is what he's comfortable with.
Goes Kyle, has to beat a 560. Yellow here for him as well. Smooth turning. Little locky, though. This isn't going to do it. On the last layer, he'll put it down with a 797. Dylan is up 2-1 in set 4.
Yeah, and once he got hit with the really long Olo there, it looked like he just tried to overcompensate by turning even faster, but that never ends up working out. Really, really big lockup there, and that was the killer for that solve.
Impressive stuff here from Dylan, keeping calm under pressure here. Putting down the caliber of solving we're so used to seeing. And now he has a chance to potentially send this to a 5th set. Dylan looking to keep up this momentum. Kyle can only wait. Here goes Dylan. Little slow pickup, but quick turning to start. Through F2L on the last layer. 533. Make it a trifecta of 5-second solves for Dylan.
Yeah, putting a lot of pressure on Kyle here. He still has to win one more set here, but Kyle definitely in a tough position, especially in this set. It seems like he's struggling a little bit with his solutions, whereas Dylan is finding the best solutions possible.
What a shot that is from our production crew. Great work, people. 5 seconds the time to beat here for Kyle. Trying to get through F2L quickly. 548! Not quick enough. Set 5. Here we come.
And again, it looked like Kyle had it. It looks like they have these solves in the bag because they get to last layer so quickly, but then it's that little hesitation there on the ZBLS that makes him think he has to rush through this, and it's just not quite enough there. And for Kyle, that was a solve that he could have taken and taken a lot of momentum away from Dylan.
Once again, could you have written this any better? 5th set. We'll either see Dylan win it all or Kyle reset the bracket. My goodness, Chris. Edge of your seat thrills here in PSL Langley. You couldn't ask for anything better.
Yeah, can Dylan pull out back-to-back PSL championship wins, or is Kyle going to force back-to-back bracket resets against Dylan?
We shall wait and see. Dylan back to solving second. He takes a look at the scramble for Kyle here, and off he goes. Yellow cross for Kyle. Pretty smooth turning to start. Big pause in the middle of F2L. Another pause. And this one's going to want to be put behind him. 836. Not what you want for Kyle.
I was a little surprised there that he didn't go for white. It looked like white already had 2 cross pieces solved. And he forced himself with a dot Olo, which is never going to get you that great of a time. So let's see if Dylan opts to go for white this time, or if he tries to do yellow but something different since he was peering at the scramble.
Door open here for Dylan. Just took set number 4 to tie it up at 2 sets apiece. Has to beat an 836. Well within his wheelhouse here. Here he goes. Dylan goes for yellow. Good pickup, smooth turning from Dylan through F2L. Quick last layer, 565. Dylan up 1-0 in set 5.
It looks like these past couple solves, Dylan's kind of found a bit of a groove. He was doing this earlier in the match where he's like, I'm just going to go through this entire solve, normal solutions, nothing too fancy, and turn my way through it. And before he was locking up, but now he's not at all. These are really, really good executions.
All momentum back to Dylan. Kyle trying to regain a little bit of momentum of his own through F2L on the last layer. Had a cube fumble and puts it down with a 701.
Yeah, and the difference between Kyle and Dylan is that I think Kyle's solutions have just generally been longer in F2L. That was a pretty nasty lockup that he got on the very first move of the solve as well. And unfortunately here he forces a diag swap PLL. Good job not to get the +2, but forcing a diag swap is never what you want to do.
An 8 and a 7 to begin things for Kyle in this set number 5. Dylan looking to go up 2-0 and activate match point here and tournament point at that. 7:01 the time to beat here for Miller. A lot of inspection time used, and here he goes. 12 seconds total, going for yellow. Pretty smooth start. Little Locky trying to finish F2L in time. Does so on the last layer, but this will not be quick enough. A 10 flat. We're tied up at 1 in set 5.
Dylan cannot afford to give that solve away because it's such a beatable time. He knows it, especially because this scramble looked like it had some blocks going on here, but it was a bit complicated. It looked like Dylan even tried going for like a free flop solution there. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but definitely not the solution that he needed to take advantage of.
Kyle for his next solve trying to recognize a ZB. 514! What a response!
And time again, what do we say? Whenever you give away solves like this, it always seems like your competitor comes back and gives you something that you're not going to be able to take advantage of.
What a great response from Kyle, but again, Dylan has gotten 4s plenty of times in this tournament. So, at 5:14, a very solid time, but with Dylan, it is not safe. Let's see what Dylan can find here. 5:14, the time to beat. Here he goes. Good pickup, good start to the turning. Through F2L on the last layer now. A 516! Kyle gets that solved by 0.02 of a second.
Oh, and it was so close once again. I think it was just a little bit of bad luck on the last layer. His F2L, he flew through it. Looks like he took advantage of that block as well on red and blue, and just a little too slow to the timer stop, I guess. Is that really what it takes down to these margins?
It very well could be. Oh my goodness. Kyle up 2-1 in set 5. Here he goes. White cross the choice. Smooth turning. Little bit of a pause through F2L. Trying to recognize ZB. Locky. A 780 for Kyle.
So Dylan has a chance at a bit of redemption here because Kyle just gave him a solve that he needs to take advantage of. And, you know, Dylan wasn't able to do it before. Just a huge lockup there trying to insert that pair into the back. Not a great execution on the ZB either. So just a pretty much disaster of a solve for Kyle.
Dylan has to claim this solve to force it to a solve number 5 in set number 5. This is as down to the wire as it gets. Anything worse than a 780, we have another bracket reset. See what Dylan can find here on this scramble. Here he goes. White cross the choice here for Dylan. Look at that turning to start. Through F2L on the last layer. Calmly with a 549. We're going to a solve number 5.
And in the dead silence of the room, the music is finishing. Dylan is able to put away any doubt of those nerves, getting it done, and now it's championship point for Dylan, but still bracket reset point for Kyle.
Here goes Kyle. Starts on yellow cross. Pretty smooth turning. Has to get through F2L quickly. He does on the last layer. 643!
And is that going to be enough? I'm not so sure. We've seen it go both ways for these competitors, not being able to take advantage of good times and bad times. But 643 is not what Kyle wants here.
It is not. What a moment this is. Tournament point here for Dylan. Anything better than a 643, he wins it all. Anything worse, it'll be the second bracket reset in the league, and the second bracket reset once again by Kyle.
And can Dylan finally get over the hump and take an elimination match from Kyle?
What a grand finals this has been. Dylan taking his time here, and here is his cube. Utter silence in the venue. Big deep breath for Dylan. Another deep breath, taking some extra beats here to regulate his breathing. And here he goes.
Eight seconds. 12.
Little locky start here for Dylan. Through F2L. Puts it down with a 566! No deja vu here. It's Dylan's day today. He wins PSL Langley.
And after all doubt, Dylan takes 2 matches from Kyle as well. There's no bracket reset at all. He got completely bailed out there with the PLL skip that he was not expecting, but that is exactly what you need to leap the mental hurdle of beating your rival. So Dylan finally taking an elimination match from Kyle.
I mean, that's almost terrible, but yeah, I don't know. Just like being okay with the L, I guess I've taken a lot, and then just, I don't know, I've been cheating a lot, so it's easier just like to go next.
Do you have any advice for cubers that are struggling in this moment trying to get their best times?
I mean, just keep pushing, man. That's all you can really do. Get coaching at solveitdylan.com.
Alright, Dylan, see ya at the next PSL event. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you guys.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Dylan Miller quiets the critics. It's his day today, and he takes back-to-back PSL titles, and he now has his first win in the rivalry against Kyle Santucci. What an electric grand finals matchup that was, and it came down to the 5th set in the final solve in that set. It's down to the wire as you can get, and as Chris mentioned, a PLL skip for Dylan. And hey, as we say a lot, getting lucky is not a crime.
Absolutely not, and it's exactly what we signed up for with Dylan versus Kyle. Every single time these guys match up, it seems like it's just absolute cinema between them. And you're right, though. This time it was Dylan's day, and I'd say very much so now. This is a rivalry. It's 1-2, but Dylan's taking his first one against Kyle, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this in the future.
Absolutely, no doubt. What an electric competition this was. Dylan Miller, the native of Baton Rouge, takes this one by a final total of 3-2 over Kyle Santucci. Chris, your final thoughts on this competition?
Great solving from some new competitors that we saw. Great solving from some competitors that we've seen before. I can't wait for the next one. And for Dylan, congratulations. That's back-to-back titles in PSL for him.
Altogether, Dylan is now a 4-time PSL champion. And once again, we have another repeat winner here in the Premier Speedcubing League in Season 2. And what a great moment this is for Dylan. Coming into Canada and getting the win over one of Canada's finest, Kyle Santucci. Well, that's going to wrap up our broadcast. The next time we'll join you for the Premier Speedcubing League will not be until Saturday, August 8th. Mark your calendars. It is going to be PSL Michigan in Port Huron. And that always brings a smile to my face, of course, being born and raised in Michigan. Excited to see the best of the best go at it in the Great Lakes State. But for now, that'll wrap up our broadcast here from PSL Langley. One more, a big thank you to all of you watching. A big thank you to our wonderful crew on site today. Lucas Aubin running the camera, Aaron Farrago running graphics and getting some intel for us, Michael Chai putting this whole event together. Big thank you to our wonderful crew for making this possible. But for now, for the 45-time gold medalist Chris Yen, I'm Michael Rosencrans saying so long, and we'll see you on the other side.